Good evening. I'm calling to order this meeting of a special council meeting on May 26th at 6:30 p.m. And Mr. Clerk, do we have any regrets?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have regrets from Councillor Longo.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or any other interest? I'm interested. Mr. Clerk, we only have declarations of interest in the matters to be worked on tonight. So anyway, there's no declaration of conflict of interest. And so now I'd like to call first 5.5, the former Oakville Trafalgar High School redevelopment. And we have because we have a delegation, and I would like to ask the clerk to call the delegation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Douglas McCurgan.
Welcome, Mr. McCurgan. Council looks forward to your information.
I was prepared to stay here for hours. Thank you. So, my name is Douglas McCurgan. I'm delegating on behalf of the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association. Can I have the first slide, please? So we have sought formal feedback from our neighbors. The response so far has been pretty sparse, but nevertheless, there is significant consistency in attitudes towards the old OTOHS building. And that consistency is that, number one, the building is an eyesore, it's an embarrassment. And number two, that we all feel very strongly that something needs to be done sooner rather than later. Whatever that done is, whether it's demolish it, repurpose it, salvage parts of it, when is becoming more important to us than what. Can I have the second slide, please? So our formal position is that we recommend, or we support staff's recommendation of option number 4. But we note a few things, and the important point here is that we support staff's recommendation. The rest of this slide is a little bit of bitching. We think that probably we residents have contributed to this umpteen-year delay. So the main message from this is if this ever comes up again as an issue, this kind of thing, let's do better in the future. So with respect to option 4, we don't see a timeline, costs, no risk assessment, no plan provided. And that makes us a little uneasy. We want action. And one of the things that jumps out at us is that there's no clarity on what council will require of OMDC if it cannot find a joint venture partner willing to engage in the market-based seniors development. What's the plan if we can't find a willing partner? Option 2 is a very attractive option, but obviously it's not being recommended at this point for both timing and cost reasons. But we've never seen any data with respect to option number 2. We can't remember any public discussion on the subject. So these are grumbles. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCurgan. Let's just stop. I think you have questions. Councillor Duddick and Councillor Hilger and Councillor Hazlitt too. Councillor Duddick?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for coming out. I'm wearing my Heritage Act here in terms of where it's designated. And so that restricts what can and cannot be done unless council agrees to demolish.
I understand that.
Yeah. Your comment about contributing, I wasn't quite clear about what you were referencing when you said we've contributed to something. Is that?
I think most people, most of the time, are too busy in their private lives, and you know, we've been aware of neighbours ourselves bitching about the building, but we haven't been engaged in it.
There has been a considerable amount, not in the immediate area, but advocating for the retention of Oakville Trafalgar High School, that it's one of the cornerstones for the community. Unfortunately, we don't have the old one that was where the library is. So it has significant importance along with the architectural merits from Mr. Molesworth. So I agree with you. It needs to move forward. I don't think we're realistically going to have anyone who's going to revamp the entire thing, but I'm very concerned about the town being, what shall I say, put in the same regard as some of the people who buy a heritage home and then have demolition by neglect. And I think we've neglected this, so.
Yeah, and that was to some extent where it was coming from with my second slide. But I don't think that it is, it's a collective mistake. You know, council, residents, staff, there have been other priorities. It is what it is.
Okay, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elger?
Thank you. Through Member Burton. Hi, Doug. Glad to see you come out tonight. Doug, I take it you read the report and the Appendix B to it also with the details of that? Or maybe you didn't.
I've read the staff report. There's one of the appendices is a map. And then the third appendix, if I remember, is the OMDC report.
Correct. Yeah, that the Oakville's MDC own report said that they didn't support, they're against what's happening tonight because they're saying making a reversible decision right now is wrong. They want a proper assessment because even though they're saying it was around $10 million, nobody's been into that school since 2016. So it's 10 years out of date with the information. And since we are such stallers, I guess we could call it, really concerned about the heritage, how do you think the town and council look if we are dumping, deciding, okay, it's no good, we'll rip it down, and then forcing other people to fix their windows and everything on their heritage properties? Like when I read, I was with you until I read Appendix B on what Oakville MDC said. It said separate the parcels. Yeah, you can put up the seniors building, but leave the school and go into it again and see what really needs to be done. Because there's a spread here between $10 million spread. The report for some reason says 20, and they're saying the last report they had was 10, and they want to go in again. I just feel we're running before we have all the information to make a final decision. And as Councillor Duddick said, demolition by neglect. Yes. And, you know, we go back to the school, was it 1909 is the heritage building itself? There's not too many that's been around since 1909, and I have to agree. But that $10 million spread, it's not small change for a little councillor like myself. Maybe it is for somebody rich like yourself, but I think we owe it to the residents of Oakville, throughout Oakville, if we're really pushing to save heritage homes in Oakville, which I think we do a pretty good job, and don't let them get into such disrepair, which we have done. So I'm kind of hoping that somebody will come up with a motion tonight to refer this back, and especially based on the report Appendix B. It changed my mind on everything. So anyway, have you read in details what Appendix B said?
No, no, I have looked at it, but I can't argue the point with you. The bottom line from our point of view is do something. Don't just defer it and put it to bed.
Well, I agree as we have to do something. I hope that's what the councillors in Ward 3 will do tonight. So thank you very much. Nice to see you. Take care.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, Doug. You mentioned you tried to talk to some of the neighbors, but from a scope perspective, it wasn't a formal survey. We don't have we don't have a listing of who's pro and who's con. What I heard you say is that the core theme is do something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've solicited feedback through our newsletter. Various people have suggested uses for it. Ranging from some kind of community good like maker's space.
Linda, Michael called me. Do you want to give him a call? Michael called me.
Councillor Elgar, your microphone is on and you're sharing your family business with the public.
Oops. Sorry about that, Doug.
No,
Continue.
I thought I was being yelled at. Anyway, so at one extreme, people were recommending or suggesting new uses for the property, maker space, meeting rooms, that sort of thing. And at the other extreme, people were saying, demolish the goddamn thing now. They were fierce. But there is a collective view that just leaving it alone and neglecting it is wrong. And we should do something.
Correct. And I think my email to all the RAs said, so tell me what that is other than just do something. But I agree with you. It's long past time to do something. But you made a comment in your slide about no timeline, no costs, no risk assessment, no plan. And then you sort of tried to qualify it. But would you agree that as councillors, part of our responsibility is to make sure that we have that information and that plan so we can finally get on with doing it in a way that gets action and results for the community?
Yeah, yes, I do. This is your job.
Would you like it? Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm just telling you what our view is,
Yes.
that something has to be done.
Right, I appreciate that, I really do. And my sense is that the do something is, people want to see a concrete plan that will make a decision responsibly about how we deal with the old OT. What are those elements? What can and would we do? And give the public that information, because you haven't had all that information for quite some time.
Yeah, look, I'm sounding like I'm arguing with you, and forgive me. The issue for us is how long is that going to take?
Exactly.
Option number 4 is a very clear, here's a course of action, and we see some holes in it, but we're willing to support it because it's a plan.
Right.
It's a direction.
And if we could close some of those holes by July or August, Would you agree that with some of that additional information?
Oh, sure. I mean, the issue for us is we're talking about 30-plus years, and we don't want to see more years go by with the thing just decaying.
Hear, hear. All right, thanks very much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. I guess I've got a personal connection to OTHS. I started there in 1914 and graduated in 1972. It took me a long time to graduate. With all due respect, and aside from the fun part of it, this has been an eyesore, you're right, for many years. I've lived on that area for all my life, and what I'm seeing here, I think we need to do a little bit more work before we get crazy with the hammer and chisels with respect to this property. It is a heritage property. I'm more in tune to deconstruction rather than demolition. I think we really need to understand what we can save and what we can't, and how we do that assessment. We need to bring in the appropriate people to help us out with this. You're right. It's time to move on this before the whole thing falls down, and we don't want that to happen. If you look at the school itself, all the windows in the front, I can tell you, I've been in every classroom, top and bottom, in that high school, and it has got some features inside that would be very, very well received if we could recondition those as time goes on, but I think we really need to do assessment. It is one of the oldest buildings in Oakville, and I do appreciate the report and so forth and the options, but I think we still need to do some more assessment on this and move it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess my question really for this, Doug, and I apologize, but it's really staff, like, what is the role of MDC here? Why are we not at a place where everybody's okay with what we're doing and moving on here? I guess I'm trying to figure out what the role of MDC is and why we're still not a place where everybody's okay with what's happening here. We've had this development corporation for years and years and years, and we've been looking at what it is they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it and where the return, the ROI is. And I'm here we are tonight, and Mr. McCurgan is here, trying to explain, just do something. And everybody's going, well, we still don't know what the role is. So I don't know if somebody from MDC is there, but is there somebody who can stand up and say, yeah, we got this, and we're not where we want to be, or we are where we want to be. And I'm just trying to get a little more clarity on what the role of MDC is in terms of delivering something that the community's okay with, the town's okay with, and we can move forward. And I don't understand why we're not where that is.
Can I leave, by the way?
I don't think the councillor's question was for you. But the CEO of the MDC, Mr. Mark Maneri, is here to answer the councillor.
The project that we're talking about today is a little different from the other ones that have been given to the Oakville MDC. Council's direction was for us to look for a partner and the town to manage the partnership that might materialize. There's no question that there is support for a seniors facility. There's support for maintaining the heritage structure. There's support for the town square in some quarters. The problem is the cost of rehabilitating the school, and that has impacted our ability to find someone who wants to take on the project. It's just that simple.
So is it that the council's directive is too limited then? Is that what it is for the MDC to work within? Or, if the MDC can come back with solutions, here's 3 options and here's the best. Have we limited your scope too much that you can't find a viable out with this property, or what's the glitch here?
Yes, that's probably the best summary, is that the direction that was given to the Oakville MDC is to look for someone who would construct a 4-story seniors facility, rehabilitate and maintain the heritage characteristics as defined in the building, and to construct a civic square. No one has the financial interest in doing that. And that's why we did a report to the board saying, Council, you may want to reconsider and give us new instructions, because the instructions we have right now have not encouraged any viable offers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship. I just want to remind council at the last planning development meeting, we passed a motion regarding Heritage Helping Housing Grant Program and encouraging the province to support what the ACO ACO Architectural Group for Ontario. You know, many places you see schools, churches, things like that being transformed into housing or unique spaces. I don't know why we can't sort of figure out this site, but there's got to be a solution out there. And, you know, I certainly, speaking from the heritage perspective, it would be a shame if all we get out of it is a commemorative plaque. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I would certainly before, you know, trying to figure out some sort of option. Many places do find a way to adapt or reuse their older buildings, like schools, churches, things like that. So I'm sort of not ready to give up on the site totally. You know, and just sort of timely that we passed a motion that sort of relates directly to this. Now, I know there's not funding from the province to help us just yet. But, you know, hopefully one day soon there can be some support from the province or the feds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeice. Councillor Giddings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Minari. Question regarding the past 9 years. You know, the initial look was for seniors housing. Was that ever defined? Seniors housing could... Most of us in this room are seniors. It could be condos, it could be apartments, it could be a number of different things. Are we, just some quick questions, are we hung up on seniors housing, meaning some form of care? I haven't seen enough, there have been a couple of questions in terms of an up-to-date engineering report. Do we know what we're looking at on this in terms of the status of the building? We haven't talked about the chimney swifts in quite a while. Have we? I don't know the regulatory body behind chimney swifts, but are we able to move them if we build a faux chimney on the side of OTCC or the parking garage? The Civic Square, could that be internal to one of the buildings? We have a lot of moving parts on this, and I'm just curious if there's any ability to look at them in a slightly different way so that we achieve all of the goals, along with something that gets us the ability to find a partner on this project.
There are no restrictions on the type of senior housing that can be developed on the site. The options are left open based on proposals that might come forward from developers. It could be long-term care, it could be seniors apartments, it could be you know, a village of some kind. As far as chimney swifts are concerned, I think that's this sounds silly. That's the easy part. There's been many opportunities across the province where people have had to deal with chimney swifts and have been able to successfully relocate them. So we can, I know we can deal with that. With the building itself, there are no restrictions on what the Oakville High School could be used for, as long as it's complementary to the seniors facility. So there, you know, there is an option there as well. You know, come back again. It's a question of how much will it cost to get that complementary use.
Thank you for that. The 4-story, has that posed a concern, or have potential folks shied away from it because they were after greater height?
Some developers have asked for additional height, which would then be a financial incentive to rehabilitate the high school. at a 4-story level, it's much more difficult for the financing of a project for the entire site. But there has been, I mean, I don't want to mislead, there has been interest in a 4-story facility in isolation from the high school.
All right, thank you for that. There was, in the report, it talked about being declared excess to needs. At some point in time, when Midtown gets built, we are going to see a huge influx of residents, and I take it that that's problematic holding on to it for that much longer, as our friend Mr. McCurgan pointed out. Just wondering if that could be looked at as well, if we're successful in referring this back. Thank you.
Councillor, that would depend on what's in the referral back.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Thank you, Hugh Burton, to Mr. Minari. Again, glad to see you, Mark. Mark, you do stand by your Appendix B that's in the report. Because the Oakville MDC itself said that a new structural assessment is imperative before making any decisions. And has anything changed, like that we don't know about in that regard? Like I thought the Appendix B really helped me decide where I wanted to go tonight.
I mean, you'd have to speak to town staff about the update to the structural assessment. I haven't been involved in that, and I believe is there one? There is one. I have not seen it, but there is one. Town staff could speak to that. But yes, I mean the structural assessment that we have, I think, would be very similar in many respects to the one that's just been done. It would just be a matter of whether there's been further degradation since the last time a study was completed.
Which apparently was 2016, according to what I know, or what we have in the reports we were provided with. And I do think Oakville MDC has played a very big role. They're saying, document staff attached to support their recommendations actually argues against making irreversible decisions right now. So I want to thank you for having your group involved in this, because I think at the end of the day we will make the right decision. And I think what we have to do, what Mr. McCurkin says, not let it rag on for another 10 years, though. So I will see where the councillors want to go with the motion tonight. But thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to address, Mayor Burton, the question about the building assessment. The building assessment was initially done in 2016 when the property, we were looking at the property in terms of setting out its requirements going forward. We updated that building assessment in 2025 just to make sure that the building was stable and sound and that there was nothing more that we need to do in order to protect its structural integrity. So that was recently in 25.
Thank you, Ms. Closey. Councillor Duddick?
I guess I'm a little perturbed that review took place, but it wasn't shared with MDC. It sort of sounds like one's not talking to the other.
I would suggest that's not the case. There's a regular conversation between ourselves and MDC. He was aware that the work was being done, and he was aware of the conclusion of the work, but no, we haven't actually passed it on yet. It would be available to, if he's going out again to market the property, it would certainly be part of the package that he would make available to anyone who is interested in acquiring or working through the details on the site.
And is there an opportunity for us to see that?
Absolutely. Those documents, we have a whole package of documents that we have, that I know that the MDC has provided to anyone who's interested in the property. So there's a
a heritage requirements that's in there, the chimney swifts, the engineering report that was done, there's a whole compendium. I think there's about 15 different documents. So certainly we could provide that to council.
That'd be
We
excellent.
have provided, just so you know, we have provided out to anyone who's interested in the site on a confidential basis, because there's a fair amount of detail in that. So we would provide it to council in the same way.
Thank you.
Councillor Chisholm?
Jay, is it possible on highlights with 2025, an update what the highlights are, what the major concerns are with the high school? Do we have any idea what the major stumbling blocks are?
Do you mean in terms of the building
Yeah,
assessment?
the building assessment, the structure itself.
So
Is
the
it strong? Is it weak? Is it?
The conclusion out of the study, and actually we have a copy of it up that maybe Paul can speak to directly, the overall conclusion of the building is structurally sound. And so from that perspective, it doesn't look that great on the inside or the outside, but it's the soundness, it's the engineering component of it that is assessed, and that was the overall conclusion.
Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you.
So, Council, it seems to me that you're anxious to have more information, and I think you should have more information. I would suggest that we delay this until June 1st's meeting so that staff can distribute the information that the CAO just described. And at that June meeting, you will then be able to decide whether you're satisfied with the amount of information you have, and you can delay it again if you're not satisfied. But on the other hand, we won't respond to the request from the community to get moving by delaying for several months. We'll just delay long enough to get you the information that you want, if you're okay with that. I'm not moving a motion. I'm only suggesting what you might want to do. Councillor Hasletiel, your hand is up next.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Would it be helpful to the staff for us to be more explicit about some of the things in addition to the heritage attributes or a heritage assessment and the building assessment, some of the other things that you may have that we haven't had a chance to look at? Would that be helpful to you?
Yes, I think you should, in the spirit of making sure you have the information that you need to make a sound decision, you should specify the information that we can reasonably expect would exist.
Okay. Would you like me to do that now, sir?
It would be in order. There are, when you recognize you have the floor and you get to move motions.
Yeah, thank you. So the chimney swift piece would be nice to have a bit more clarity on from a provincial requirements perspective, and I think you may have that. And it would be very helpful for us to understand from the MDC's perspective what might be different this time beyond just explaining perhaps some adjustments on the Civic Square. Is there an opportunity for you to share with us what your marketing strategy might be, or to use the delegates' earlier words, the plan that would be, according to the staff report, and I apologize, Mr. Manaria, I would have thought that you had that report. So it talks about an open, public, transparent process, and it would be helpful if we had, going into the next meeting, clarity on what that looks like from an MDC perspective. Does that mean that there'll be decision-making milestones? Could there be greater, sooner updates to council? What kind of timeline would you be looking at if you've got clarity on some of the heritage pieces and on the Civic Square, and potentially on a broader housing proposal? Would you be able to give us a look at a plan that enables you to achieve what I'm sure you really have always wanted to achieve, which is find the partner, achieve the best possible options? So is it possible to ask for that? my intent was not to ask for that for June 1st. I would have liked to have given you the grace of a little more time than that. But if you have that, and we could have that going into the next meeting, great. If not, I would suggest that it is important that we be able to tell the public there is a plan that moves, that you have the resources that you need to address what is clearly a frustration for all. And Mark is going to the podium, so
maybe I could begin on that, particularly around the Civic Square and the Heritage Building. In the staff report that's in front of you, our intent was to sit down with Mark and the MDC to get a bit of, with our heritage staff in hand, to get a better, as well as our Parks and Open Space, to get a better understanding. So what are the objectives that we're looking for? It's a conceptual plan at this point in time. How far on the heritage side could you look at making some changes while still maintaining the heritage designation? So that detail is the detail that we expected to take away after this meeting to do. So the June 1st deadline is difficult to meet because those discussions still need to happen. And I did want to clarify where the MDC may not have the building assessment. They absolutely have the report that's in front of you today, and they were consulted on that report to make sure that the options that we were setting out reflected some of the things that they thought could be potential in the marketplace. So I did want to clarify that.
there is another report that indicates that you could separate the projects and that you wouldn't want us, Mr. Maneri, to use your words, make an irreversible decision. So that is also true. To Mayor Burton's comments, I listed off a few things that we would like, and I'm just wondering about the marketing plan. Again.
It will depend on what role you want the MDC to play. As I've said, historically, we've played the role of your broker. We have not gone out to necessarily negotiate or enter into any kind of joint venture arrangement. We were to find partners, and we would bring them back. When we found them, we would bring them back to town staff for consideration. And I can certainly give you a description of how that works. If you're interested in the Oakville MDC actually undertaking a project through a joint venture or a limited partnership, that's a whole different process, which includes an RFP and an evaluation criteria and a timeline and a you know, a much larger basket of information that we would provide to you. So, I mean, or I could give you both. You could make a decision.
It's so funny that you should say that, because perhaps both is what we should see, because that clarity just now was actually quite helpful to me, that there are two paths here. I had understood that you were actually beyond brokering, and so thank you for clarifying that for us. Mayor Burton, I can forward some written concepts, but I think I've covered most of it. Looking for, and I don't want to be unfair to MDC in terms of what we would like by June 1st. Mark looks at goes, like that's not really going to work.
5 days.
Yeah, I'm with you. And so we had thought that they could come back in July with all of that information, and that, at the latest August, that would then allow us as councillors, we have this information. We can then say, here are the next steps. As you have just said, are we giving it to you to go full bore? And you will have then told us how you're going to do that and how quickly you can do that as part of our decision making. So I'll forward this and to members of council and the clerk if you for consideration. The one piece that I have in here that is not related specifically to MDC is what Councillor Giddings also referenced, which is the staff taking a bit of time, not a long time, to just ensure that there is absolutely no need for Oakville, the old OT, from a building perspective for community need, given the recognized projected growth in Midtown and the potential delays that could occur for those community services. So I do have that in there. I am forwarding it now, Mayor Burton, and for our council's consideration.
Well, can I, Councillor Giddings, can I assume that you'll second this? All right, so the matter's on the floor. Councillor, I just wanted to ask if you heard and processed that Mr. Maneri told us that when he was seeking a partner for us, he was seeking a partner on the terms that council had set. And that I took from that to mean that we had asked more than the market would give us. And I just hope that that registered, because that's Mark's most valuable input here.
Well, I think he's given us valuable input, and yes, I fully understand. He has been sticking strictly to the scope in which he has conveyed to us. And my challenge is, I don't believe that, well, it would have been nice to have that scope revisited earlier, but I fully appreciate he wants clarity. The public wants clarity. I think respectfully, councillors want clarity, so we can do something that's responsible for those important lands.
We may all be on the same page, Councillor. Under our procedure, if we refer it to the 1st and the material is not ready in time, it can slip to the 15th. We don't need to throw long. We need to throw just far enough to get what we want. Okay. Given that, Councillor McNeice, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, through your worship, sort of just along the same lines of what was just discussed there. I think I'd like to understand a bit more. I understand we're working with the terms. Let's say those terms change. If we could understand what that would mean, and maybe we don't have the answer by June 1st. The reason I bring that up, I think there's a good point that the surrounding area is envisioned to change probably a lot more significantly than anticipated 5 or 6 years ago. And when I think of comparable heritage buildings and just thinking of Toronto, there's buildings like Winchwood Barns that provides a need for that area. And I believe it's artist housing and a market space for that local community, or there's Center for Social Innovation that uses heritage buildings. And I think they even have a bond system that sort of pays for it, and it provides office or co-working space and other things, or artscape, things like that. So maybe there's just a different way of thinking about it if we're, before we sort of throw in the towel to such a significant building. But certainly I think that would take the MDC down a much different road. Another option sometimes is design competitions and things like that. But if we could just understand, if we're broadening the scope, what does that mean going forward? Obviously, more resources, more time, things like that. But maybe if we could just hear back. I'm not expecting an answer today, but either on the 1st or the 15th.
Councillor, excuse me, we're not voting on any of that. We're voting on receiving additional information and taking the matter up again on the 1st or the 15th or whenever.
Yes. So I was just trying to add to the list of the additional information that I was hoping to get. So if we were to change the terms of what the MDC has been charged with, if we could understand the impact of that.
So council set the terms at the first time. And,
correct.
And council is the one who would set terms again. So I'm sure that with the benefit of your advice, council will receive from staff on the 1st or the 15th or whenever a recommended set of terms to offer the MDC.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Councillor Ilger?
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Yeah, I'm just concerned about this date. If we're sitting on May the 26th and just throw out June the 1st, I really think we have to be reasonable of staff's time unless they want to work more than 24 hours a day, including weekends. But I think that we're pushing a little too hard here. And I think we need the Mr. Maneri's expertise And we have to, the feasibility of separating the disposition to get that seniors building built, like maybe we just separate it. And because that looks like the profitable portion of the whole thing from what I read in the report. So I just want to make sure to satisfy Mr. McKirkin that we get this done in this term of council. I'd just say by August, if we can get everything back by August, we can make a final decision and make everybody happy and everybody content instead of thinking we're trying to ram something through, good or bad. So I like where we're going, but I do think even tasking staff for something on June the 1st is a little bit unrealistic for them. I thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor. I would suggest to you that if they can't make the 1st, they might make the 15th. If not that, the next date. But I don't see any benefit in waiting till August. And we become lame duck on August 21st. So your August date strikes me as kind of, it's got a limited appeal to me. Anyway, it's up to council. We have a motion, and I think everybody has it. It's quite long. I'll get to her in a second. So if Councillor, would you like to give a précis of it? Just rhyme off the 7 points?
Sure. That staff report back with a heritage assessment for the former Oakville Trafalgar High School, including the cultural heritage value and the significance of that building, the identification or potential reuse, identification or preservation of heritage elements, a copy of a building assessment or structural engineering assessment on the stability and condition of the former OT, so a further understanding of the provincial requirements on the chimney swift habitat, a further explanation of sort of the differences between a town staff-led project approach versus the Oakville MDC model, which allows then MDC to also talk to us about the value-added approach that they bring from addressing community needs and financial objectives. That MDC provide those details which I referenced earlier, proposed revised marketing strategy reflecting an open, public, transparent with critical timelines, decision-making milestones, a consideration of public feedback, and confirmation you have the resources to market and get those potential proposals and return with a status update in January of 2027. I also referenced that staff look at the potential opportunities for the former OT building relative to either complementary use of the OTCC or other community needs, and report back on the same, and that staff report back to council with this information. We did say no later than August. I take your point, Mayor Burton. You know, you want something sooner. I was just trying to be respectful of whether, how quickly, but I mean, would I love to see it in July? If it's comprehensive, the goal is to enable council to provide clear, comprehensive direction regarding the next steps for resolving this, which would be making a decision about MDC. It doesn't say that exactly, but how are we going to market it? How are we going to receive those development options so that by January of 2027, the do something has really moved us forward.
Thank you, Councillor. The CAO, I'll recognize you in a moment. I'm okay if you want to say by August. I think it would be better to say
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. I mean, the way I would say as soon as possible is June 1st, and if not that, the next one, and if not that, the next one. But that's a matter for council to decide. And that's all I wanted to say about the timing. But I'll support it either way. But my recommendation is that you get it faster if you ask for it faster. And the chair recognizes the CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. We will, of course, put the package together as quickly as possible. It's the information that you require. We are conscious of the August deadline, so we will try for as soon as possible. But we'll bring one comprehensive package. I know we could do some of it by June 1st, but that's not a complete package. So we will do a complete package. the only one I raised to get some clarity on specifically is on the community use. So what we have done is we've looked at all of the master plans that we've prepared, and we've just updated all those master plans within the last year or two in terms of what are the town requirements that we need. And so we can look at that and get back to you on that. If you're asking for us to look broader in terms of broader community uses out there, that I believe takes a longer time to be able to do. Because one, we have to understand what are the community groups are out there that would be looking at some additional space. That's time to go out and search for them. I think the other major question to ask a community group is are they in a financial position to be able to withstand this fairly significant task of the high school building. So that component would take a much longer time for us to do. I would suggest that would be well into the future. So if you're asking us to look at what our town needs, we can absolutely do that as soon as possible.
Councillor, do you want to adjust that part of your motion?
So I respect that you couldn't do a comprehensive assessment of community partners' needs, and as you appropriately say, their financial health to contribute. It would, though, be helpful that a fresh set of eyes at least turn their mind to, is there a risk that we would be giving up a potential, we only have a limited amount of public land in the vicinity of Midtown that could be part of supporting the Midtown growth. And you may come back with a report that says, we don't have enough information, or this is the best we can give you in terms of insights. But I would appreciate somebody turning their mind to that, so we can at least rest assured if the decision is, it's all housing development of some shape or form, we've considered it.
Thank you, Councillor. We will turn our minds to that to see if we're losing an opportunity for town needs.
Thank you.
So, Councillor, do you need to adjust your language your written language to reflect what you said?
I think the CAO is fine.
And you're fine with her?
Yes, I'm fine with that direction.
Okay. Then, Councillor Adams, thank you for your patience.
No problem at all. Thanks very much. I just wanted to help clarify what the meaning of each of the items was, or the expectations of what we would get back. So I'm looking at items 1, 2, and 3 here. Are staff expecting to be providing us existing reports for these 3 items? Effectively, like there's not new technical reports that are going to be provided, or we're not going out to get consultants to write something new.
That's correct. It'll be the existing documents they already have.
So
and I think we've got most of those things covered off in the existing documents. But yeah, there's no new research.
So there's no new research happening. This is providing us information that's out there already or within staff's hands. Okay, great, thank you. And then 4 and 5, I read those as providing better explanation of the processes that we've used for other sites already. Is that also your expectation?
Yes, it is, Councillor.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll?
Thank you, Worship. With respect, I support this referral back and with the additional information required, because certainly we do need to have all the details in front of us. I've spent 26 years hearing about this school since I joined council a long time ago, and I've lost track of the number of times this has been before us. One question that I have, though, is with respect to that 26-year period that I've been here, and as long as the building has been sitting vacant, have we done any actual assessment of, have we had a third-party dispassionate assessment of the potential use of this building for other use? Because I know that there's a real pressure in the town in terms of trying to preserve the historical aspects of this property, and maybe that sometimes jades our point of view in terms of where we go with this. Has there ever been a third-party assessment done by somebody who has expertise in adaptive reuse, or for that matter, the marketing of these sorts of facilities or buildings, to give us some advice on that rather than just constantly rehashing the same information? Is that information available? Have we done that at any point? I can't recall. I know we had a study for an art gallery at one point, and there was a number of things along the way, but I don't know if we've actually ever retained expertise to give us some advice on this?
Not as a third party. You're right on the galleries piece. There was quite a bit of work done. Actually, by the galleries, they looked into it in terms of whether or not they, and they had brought in an architect at that point in time. In fact, I think one of the board members was an architect who looked at it to see what could happen in the use. They were actually quite excited about it, but again, it was the cost. That was at the time we were applying for some federal funding at that point in time. So that's the only assessment that I'm aware of in the last 20 years on that site. So I'm not aware of any other third-party assessment.
I tell you, the only reason I raise this, and I'm not trying to derail anything, Councillor Haslett-Thiel, but I fear that this is going to come back to us and we're going to have all this data that we have to analyze again, and none of us are really experts on this piece. And we're even hearing the MDC saying, what do we do next kind of thing. We're not even sure what we're supposed to do next. So I'm just wondering if that is something we should maybe consider, retaining that kind of resource to provide some feedback along with the physical assessments of the property as well, to give us some insights as to what the market could bear. Like we've got this view of what we think we want there. We have a master plan or zoning that actually says this is what we want on that site. Maybe we're wrong. And maybe we need to if our biggest goal here is to save this site, and I know the housing demands and everything, but if our biggest goal here is to save this site, maybe there's another approach that we're missing because we're sort of so headstrong on wanting to preserve this important piece of Oakville's history. I'm not sure, because that could delay this even more, I guess. But I'm afraid we're going to see this and we're going to be back in the same position saying, great, we have a lot of facts and figures. We know the building's stable, but do we have any greater knowledge in which to make this decision, which option is most viable? Like, I don't know if we're giving Mr. Maneri enough to work with, to be honest with you.
Councillor, let's let the CEO answer your question.
I just like hearing the sound of my own voice.
Yeah, we know.
We did hear the question.
Through you, Mayor Burton. That is in part why we had thought we should set down some fairly flexible requirements for the MDC, because I think that gets you a full array of third party to come in to look at the site to see what is actually doable in the marketplace. The purpose of the recommendation of option 4 was to set those basic parameters, give them all the material that we have, and we get the benefit of the entire marketplace coming in to look at the site to see what is actually possible within the constraints the council gives it. Because the options on the heritage piece, I think, are quite broad in terms of protecting the designation and yet perhaps shifting or removing portions of the building. So it retains the heritage designation, but not perhaps every single attribute that is on the site. And so it gives us a wider range of third party.
I appreciate that. I'm going to stop kicking this can right now, except to say that I just don't want to be in a position that we are living the Einstein theory of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting change.
Totally agree.
So I'm just wondering if there's a new input that we should be looking at somewhere along the lines, rather than just relying on the market to do it. I'm a capitalist. I have full faith in the market, but I'm just, other than that, having somebody with some expertise. I'll leave it there. If somebody wants to pick up on it, it's not my ward. I'm just, like Mr. McGurk was saying, I'm kind of tired of hearing about this, to be honest with you. I just like to get moving on with something that's constructive.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dunick.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I think the adaptive reuse of the site is what we're really looking at that stage. And I guess what might be beneficial is hearing whether it has to be in camera, being respectful of the discussions that have taken place with the MDC. Have they been approached by other people, or have there been discussions that have taken place where, not looking at a seniors facility, they said, we'd love to do this, but, and so maybe some of those discussions have already taken place. But I do agree with you, the adaptive reuse, not hamstringing, is very important. So whether or not we do that, if it's possible to come back with that, otherwise I don't want to hold it up, because again, time is of the essence.
The only decision that's on the table is whether we delay this for the information. Councillor Chisholm?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The high school itself, and we've spent a lot of money with the coach house down at the museum we've repurposed that. It was a coach house, and we have horses. It was horses that were in there, and now we're using it for small rooms and so forth. You got to remember, this is an old school. It's partitioned inside. They're classrooms, so you've really limited your repurposing, but I think there could be a marriage to something down the line with organizations. And I'm just going to use my past history and my work experience is that over the years, we have a lot of community organizations, unfortunately, just don't have the financial where to get into a partnership or a relationship, and sustainable cost becomes very extremely difficult for them. So I would be very careful. Maybe look at the outside private operations and so forth who have that ability to work with the town. But our community groups, it's very difficult for that. And knowing that the purpose of that building is there are classrooms, it's going to make it very difficult to repurpose it in a way that we'd like to see it. But I agree. And maybe it's just, my own top of mind is a spin-off from the recreation center in some shape or form as part of the recreation complex. That's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazatiel, I was going to put the vote, but is this on whether or not to delay?
No.
It's not in order then.
No, my comment is what my council colleagues suggested of adapted reuse, we hoped comes out of having an appreciation of the heritage assessment. And I take your point very much. Our intent is not, quote unquote, the delay. Our intent is a fulsome package, which what the CAO is committed to, and then making a decision. And if the marketplace, if that's where we end up, can get us a multitude of different options, that would be where we want to get to. So, thank you.
All right. Councillor Knoll, is this for or against the motion?
It's for the motion.
All right.
So I just want to be clear, I'm not suggesting delay. I'm suggesting maybe there was an additional piece of input we could get to help us at the end of this exercise so we can make that decision. I don't want to delay this anymore. I don't want a second generation to have to deal with this. So I support the motion. But if there's some way we can get that additional information along the way, I think that'd be very useful in helping what the ultimate decision outcome is.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any objection to, so the motion is as distributed by August, as you read there. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, that carries. Council, we did something. You've put me in mind of the best story Harry Barrett ever told me about Oakville building things. He was very proud of the centennial project known as the Oakville Performing Arts Center. And he told me how he proudly opened it in 1977. And I innocently asked him, oh, was the centennial year in 77? And he said, no, it was in 67, but this is Oakville. And we like to talk a thing real good before we make a decision. So Harry forewarned all of us about it, I guess. We can now, I think, turn our attention to consent. If I can unjumble my papers.
Consent starts on
Page 30. I'm getting there. I feel like we spent an hour on that. We need a break. Page 3. Customer experience strategy. These are the consent items. Can I have a motion for the consent items? Councillor Elgar, is that a motion for the consent items?
No, it's for separation of a couple.
Well, let me get a motion. I'll get a motion and then we'll have separations. Councillor
Thank you.
Adams is moving the motion. Councillor Shea is moving this, is the seconder. Separations. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through Mayor Burton. I would like to separate, well, it was going to be 9.3, but I guess it's changed to 3.3. And I think is the other one 3.5, please.
All right. I'm separating 3.3 and 3.5. Any others? Councillor Adams.
I also wanted to separate 3.5, thanks.
It's separated, sir. Councillor Elgar, was there something else? Councillor Adams, was there anything else? Councillor Hazlet-Deal.
I wanted to separate 3.1 and 3.3. Oh, sorry, and 3.4. I have questions on all.
Well, the orphan is 3.2. Is there any objection to 3.2? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection to 3.2, one consent item has been consented to. Let's take them in numerical order, if you don't mind. Number is 3.1, Customer Experience Strategy. Council? 3.1. Councilor Hazlet-Deal.
No, I have a question with respect to 3.1.
Oh.
Sorry, folks, I've got too many binders on my desk here. Thank you for the report with customer service. And I just want to say, with all this new innovative programming that you want to do with this, the customer service experience, and knowing we just had our satisfaction survey being so high, I'm trying to understand what the correlation or the connection to why we need to do all this, knowing full well our satisfaction survey is very high.
Thank you for the question, and through the mayor. It was very high, you're absolutely right. And it's something to be proud of, but it's also something to protect. Because we know we're in a world where our expectations are rising exceedingly quickly, and standing still in that instance would actually be moving backwards. So while 9 out of 10 residents are telling us we're doing a great job, we do need to look at that 10% on where we maybe could do things a little bit better. It means that there are actually moments, and in some cases there are hundreds of them, where we can be cleaner, faster, more connected, and more human. And that's really the intent of this work, to help us build a little bit of trust and strengthen what's already strong.
Okay, and the other question too is looking at the financial. And I'm Scottish, and I watch what I do with the money. We're talking $350,000 for this to go into play. Can we not look at this figure in a more realistic, or it seems to be a very high dollar amount for what we want to do here? Can we not internalize some of these costs?
Yes, absolutely. Through the chair, I am half Scottish too, so I appreciate that question. And this was really just a ballpark forecast for us, so that when I had meetings with councillors prior to developing the full strategy, they had asked me to just ballpark what the cost might look like. We still need to go through the budget process for all of that, the dollars that are indicated in this report, and go and get approval as we do that. So if there are other priorities or competing, we will scale back and look at different options for us moving forward. For example, the training, we might look at LinkedIn Learning instead of having a facilitated session, things like that.
Yeah, it's just the concern is that if we're moving forward on this report, it's looking, I think there was two or three staff people that we have to hire for this program?
No, there isn't 2 or 3 staff people to be hired. There's a position, building services liaison position that we're piloting that was asked for through the budget for this year, and it's actually going to be implemented, and we'll test it and see through this year how it works. And if there is a future ask, we would base it on how that pilot works for us.
Okay.
Councillor, the motion is to receive, not to approve any expenditures.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I still have questions. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Would you move receipt of the report?
I move.
Can I get a seconder? Councillor Knoll, thank you. Is there any objection? Councillor Mayer, are you objecting or just waiting to be called?
I have a question on the item, if that's okay.
You are on the floor, and thank you.
Hold on, Your Worship. I'm still not finished with my questions.
Oh, well then please carry on with your questions, and then we'll go to Councillor O'Meara's questions.
Let me clarify. It's not it is a question. On your number 2, improved service request issue tracking and closure confirmation. not knowing the status of their request. And I think this is very important because it's happening now in real time. A lot of the concerns, complaints that go into Service Oakville go into, and it's just quote from the residents, they go into a dark hole, and then the response, there's no response, or the file is closed and they don't have specific information or the follow-up. And I appreciate FOIs and everything else, but we've got to come to some understanding if you're doing that so the public understands what we can do and what we can't do with respect to information being provided on the complaint or the concern that has been raised by the resident. Could you qualify for me that when we get into this program that we'll have a little bit more detail on the response rate with narrative rather than file closed?
Yes, through the chair, that part of this strategy is actually looking at a request to resolution review, and part of that is finding ways for us to improve on how we report out on case closures. So we're creating tip sheets for staff in program areas so they actually know what kind of comments to put in so that they don't close a case without a comment, that sort of thing. And we're looking at ways to keep council more informed on a monthly basis of what's going on in their ward. So not just complaints, but getting the full picture. How many requests came in, and what's the sort of feeling of those, that sort of information. So it's all built into what we're going to do, and some of it's already begun in looking at ways to improve how we actually communicate that information out to residents. I know the frustration when you get an email saying the case has been closed and you know nothing else is going on.
Thank you. I look forward to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara, thank you for your patience.
No problem. And I just to go on the pun there. Irish people are just Scottish people are just Irish people who couldn't swim. So we're all in the same pool here. So, but what I really want to ask is it just seems we can't keep up with the pace that CRMs are moving at. And by the time we get our heads around to what we need to do and what we want to do, it's already jumped the shark and we're behind. So do we have the processes in place to move at the pace with which technology is moving so that we can keep up with what the demands of our environment are in terms of this program? Because I don't think from the outside looking in and being on the inside looking in that we can move as quickly as we need to. And by the time we do an RFP and by the time we do a soundboard and we do public consult in this, it's already jumped on us. So how are we keeping up with the pace of where we are technologically and in a society with what our processes are in place as a municipality?
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. We are exploring options, modules, and lower cost items where we can use AI to help us get a little better at some of those processes, as well as our focus on continuous improvement and making sure that, we're doing end-to-end process reviews whenever we can. The technology piece is for sure we have to stay on top of it, and it's part of why we need this strategy. We did hear from residents that they want more digital services and options provided to them, so we do have to keep ahead of it. There is a cost implication, of course, with how quickly we can do those things. And we have to take into account any, the security issues around IT to make sure that we're not risking any of our residents' personal information. But all of those are on our radar and for discussion, and you will likely see some budget business cases this year to support that ask coming to fruition for some technology modules.
So I'm hearing we can keep up with the pace with which CRMs are moving?
Well, we're doing our best to try to do that, yes. It's not a secret that IT moves faster than a speeding bullet. And we're government, so we don't tend to move as quickly as, say, some of the private sector organizations. But we are exploring how we can do that, within our constraints of the budget that we have in front of us. We're doing our best. We're exploring right now our staffing models to make sure that we've got the right model of the right number of individuals, full-time versus part-time, our after-hours service. All of those things are being looked at currently to keep us as current as we can. We do a pretty good job of meeting our service levels, generally speaking. There are, blips. At tax time, we get more calls. The summer, we get more calls. When there's a snowstorm, we get more calls. But generally speaking, we are able to meet our service levels, which our council approved.
Okay, well, generally speaking, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor. So is there any objection? The motion is by Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Knoll Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, that consent item is consented to. I now come to I think we're on to 3.3. Parkland, cash in lieu of parkland, bonus zoning, development charges, community benefits, fund statements. Councillor Elgar, this is your baseball diamond.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. I just want to say I have no concern with the quality of the staff report. It is thorough and professionally prepared. My concern is with what is in it and whether Oakville residents know about it. Most Oakville residents assume that when a new subdivision is built, the developer pays for new roads, parks, fire stations, and community centers that come with it. And that's exactly what the development charges were designed to do, to ensure that growth pays for growth, not the existing taxpayers. However, over the past several years through Bill 23, Bill 109, and most recently Bill 17, the province has systematically weakened that principle. They have introduced new exemptions, frozen the rates developers pay, allowed payments to be deferred without interest, reduced parkland contributions. Each change taken alone may have seemed reasonable, but this report shows us the cumulative effect, and it is significant. The report documents over $74 million in revenue that Oakville has either lost, had deferred, or had to cover from existing taxpayer reserves. That includes $22 million lost in DC rate freeze, $8.97 million in exemptions funded by our capital reserves in 2025 alone, $20.7 million in parkland revenue lost in Bill 23, and now a new deferral mechanism under Bill 17 where developers don't pay until occupancy without any interest charge or compensate the town. I also want to flag that the Fire Protection DC reserve is currently at a negative $4.8 million. That means we are already dipping into the reserves to other areas to fund fire services and growth costs. The infrastructure still needs to be built. Someone has to pay for it. Right now, that is increasingly over Oakville taxpayers. Consent items are for routine administrative matters. This report reveals a structural shift in how the town is funded. Residents have the right to know about it. Council has an obligation to discuss this publicly and to formally tell the province that we are not satisfied and we are being left to absorb these costs. That is why I want to move this item off consent. And I guess I've done my rant, but I don't like where this is going, especially for the existing taxpayers. But I want to thank staff for the report and the numbers they provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Would you like to move the receipt of the matter?
Mayor Burton, I will move receipt, but I wonder, we've got to get the taxpayers, they have no idea. Like, how do we get this to them? Like, that short little basic information I just prepared, if that went out to people, they would probably wake up. I don't think people have any idea what's going on.
Well, Councillor, actually, the motion, I correct myself. The motion is to make this available on the town website to help the public to know it, and to also provide it to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Well, I appreciate that because the staff did an excellent job in the report. It is so well written. I can't believe it. Thank you.
So thank you for moving it.
Thank you to staff.
Let me get a seconder. I need a seconder. Councillor Duddick, thank you. Councillor Haslett-Deal, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I concur, it's a great report, and I want to thank Jonathan for clarifying that the purpose of the report is to demonstrate that we have committed the reserve funding and all of those dollars, and we intend to spend the money, so we're not sitting on a bunch of cash, which some people might read the report and go, we have a lot of money to spend, which we don't. And so that takes me to two questions. On Parkland, Right now, the balance reported was 101 million. And in the report on page 9, it goes on to say that 146 million is allocated already to capital projects right straight through to 2035. So my question is, how as council can we get some assurance that there will be reserve dollars for purchasing parkland that may be necessary in some of these SGAs?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So just to clarify the question a little bit, so we currently have just over $100 million in our Parkland Reserve, and the commitments that you were referring to are what we expect to spend over the 10-year forecast. So during that time, we still expect to collect Parkland funds through those 10 years. And that allows us then to have the funds to use them for Parkland whenever opportunities come up. I know that our Parks team has certain sites in mind, and those are always brought before council for approval. And we also do that through the budget process each year where we consider Parkland acquisition as one of our capital projects.
So if tomorrow we magically have a piece of land in an area that might cost us $40 million, we would look at the capital forecast and be able to have an assurance that if it was council's will, that the money is there from a Parkland Reserve to be approved?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So certainly if a parcel came up tomorrow for $40 million, we would then have the opportunity to look at that and say, we have $100 million in our reserve. These are the pressures that we have on where we want to buy parkland. Does that fit with our parks plan? Does that fit with where we want the land to be? What are the impacts of that decision? Just like we do for all of our other budget decisions. And then we bring that before council.
So thank you for clarifying that, because some of the public had questions on that. And then my other question is just around, on page 9, we see the reserve balance of $295.2 million with almost $1 billion allocated across the capital forecast. And I know that we go through this at budget time, but is there a report that gives us the DC contributions, the provincial and regional contributions that support that 1.1 billion?
So through you, Mayor Burton. So in our budget documents, we do outline what our expected 10-year capital forecast is, which includes the items that we would spend on growth. And it also highlights the funding sources for those items, including development charges or any other sources that there might be.
And so specifically, there is on page 6, you talk about a specific highway will incur 95% of the, we're going to incur 95% of the capital costs, which I'd like to know what highway that is and why we would incur 95% of those costs.
So I'll get Matt Day to come up to answer the detailed question. He has the details better than I do.
Through you, Mayor Burton. So that isn't a specific highway. Our roads development charges are called services related to a highway. So that's just the terminology from the DC Act. So that spending of 95%, the point being made there is in our DC background study, we said we were going to spend X. Right now, we're forecasting that we'll spend 95% of that because a couple projects have been shifted out due to coordination with other levels of government.
So it's not on a specific highway, it's actually on
All of our roads program combined, yeah.
I think we might want to write it that way, but okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have a motion and it's seconded. We've got hands though. Councillor Haslett-Thiel, are you done? Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question on page 43 on the bonus zoning funds available. I see Kerr Village has $3,316,000. Will those monies be portioned out for the streetscape? Is that where that money would be dedicated to?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that is an option. So in the official plan under Kerr Street, there are eligible bonusing items. And the money we have collected, we do have agreements for that. Most of them refer to those eligible bonusing items in Kerr Village, streetscape being one of them. So part of our work in advance of the 2027 budget is to look at the new streetscapes plan for Kerr Street and what bonusing funds we may be able to use.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. The item 3 point, wait a minute. 3.3 has been moved and seconded. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection. That is adopted. 3.4, Town Response to Buy Ontario Act. I can't remember who separated that. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. My question on this comes with an example. As I read it, I thought about the fact that some of us take a great deal of effort to go to the Association of Municipalities and the Federal Association of Municipalities, and we get vendors who share with us all their, their latest and greatest. And we often take their cards if it's something of interest. And when we take their card, there's usually a follow-up discussion about how does that work? And the reason we do that follow-up is usually because we're trying to, I think actually Councillor Amir said it, we're trying to stay abreast of what's the latest and the greatest that's out there. If we engage in a follow-up discussion following that, and we're the ones who create that discussion, are we in fact going to put that vendor at risk to bid on a project that they might be suitable for?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, the updates do have some changes related to that, but I think our Director of Finance and Deputy Treasurer is probably best positioned for that.
Through you, Mayor Burton. So I believe Councillor you're referring to Section 13 on the no lobbying requirements that were added to address some of the concerns that were raised earlier this year. And to answer your question about conversations with vendors, certainly having conversations with vendors is an important part of the work that you do. It's also the work that staff does. The purpose of this section is more about the consideration of when those conversations lead to things like unsolicited proof of concepts, pilot projects, or trials, or things like that that may actually put the town in a more difficult position. It can increase our risk profile. It can also preclude vendors from bidding. It can put them in a spot where there is not fair, open, and public procurement happening. And so that is what we're trying to address to make sure it's done in a proper manner. It's not to say you can never talk to a vendor.
So as a further example, and it's interesting that this says no lobbying. So when some of us were interested in a public registry, we weren't satisfied with the answer, and we actually spoke to other councillors in other municipalities. They sent us to a vendor that they used and walked us through their process. And so the vendor was approached by us, and that vendor happens to have a plan that is $160,000 less than what we were quoted, by the way. But the concern was when we had those conversations, would they be restricted if public registry ever comes back? And so what I'm hearing you say is those conversations don't count unless the bidding is in the public realm or we're actually in a transactional process?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So there's a couple different considerations there. So one is, in this, to your last point, in this section, we're also really focused on where there is an active procurement ongoing. So when we're trying to award work, if a member of staff or council reached out to a vendor to go outside that process, we are now circumventing open, fair public procurement. And so that wouldn't be an appropriate way for us to conduct business. When it comes to reaching out to a vendor to get an understanding of their business, that's certainly an option. But in your example, if you came back to staff and said, I wanted to have components X, Y, and Z that are restricted exactly to one vendor, now you've forced us into one vendor, which would not allow other vendors to then compete in that process.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
Councillor O'Meara?
Yeah, just maybe to follow from that, I'm curious as to, so this is provincial legislation saying that we have to have the Ontario first procurement. So if there's a Quebec-based solution or an Alberta-based solution, that gets knocked down the scale when we go and look for these sorts of things? I'm just trying to understand what the legislation is saying now we must do. That's not Canadian wide, that's now Ontario wide.
So through you, Mayor Burton, I'm going to pass it over to Leanne DaCosta. She's our manager of purchasing and risk management, and she can probably better answer that question for you.
Through you, Mayor Burton. The Buy Ontario Act speaks to capital infrastructure specifically, where we are to give preference to Ontario goods and services, followed by Canadian goods and services, and apply a weighting factor to that so that at the end of the evaluation, the highest scoring content of Ontario, followed by Canadian supplier, would get that award.
So do we know, and I know I read the report and it said that it was minimal cost difference, but there's obviously a cost difference. If something's Ontario based rather than Manitoba base and there's a cost factor there, do we have any examples of what we might be paying extra or what the cost implications are of not taking the lowest bid but taking the Ontario bid?
So through you, Mayor Burton, there is a calculation that the province has provided for us to be able to utilize, and I can share that with you moving forward, but we haven't actually gone to purchase any capital infrastructure using that formula. But in theory, yes, we would be paying slightly more by utilizing the Canadian and Ontario content.
So when you say by utilizing the Canadian and Ontario, is there a difference between utilizing the Ontario and Canadian? I'm just like, I have no problem with our Manitoba partners. I have a problem with our New York State partners. And if we're all of a sudden charging more for Manitoba or Quebec for stuff, is there a real value difference between this legislation now than what our taxpayers were paying?
Through you, Mayor Burton, again, there is a Ontario component that we're supposed to obviously apply first, and then secondary, we would apply any Canadian content, and that formula would then result in the highest scoring Ontario and Canadian content would get the highest percentage, and then based on the fact of whether or not it's low bid or not, we would have to apply that, and they would ultimately get the award based on their Ontario and Canadian content.
Okay, well, I appreciate I know you don't have the numbers in front of you because we haven't done it yet and we're starting there, but will you commit to reporting back and looking at numbers and seeing what the additional costs are for Buy Ontario to our taxpayers?
Through you, Mayor Burton, again, yes, we have a tracking sheet that we're keeping track of all of those different scenarios where we've had to pay more or less, whether we've had Ontario versus Canadian. And we also have that same program for the fleet program, which is forcing us to buy made in Ontario vehicles followed by Ontario vehicle manufacturers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of quick questions, just for my clarity with respect to your buying Ontario. Let's go outside of Canada and the U.S. And I understand. I think we're looking Ontario first, Canada first. But what happens with single source where we don't have that service or that capital in Ontario or in Canada? Is there still the opportunity to go outside that RFPs to the States?
Through you, Mayor Burton, as well. So this only applies to capital infrastructure and fleet only. So to answer your question, yes, where there's still a single source opportunity that is not capital infrastructure or fleet, we would still maintain that single source opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Can I get a mover and seconder for the recommended? Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Nanda, thank you. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, 3.4 carries. Now we have 3.5, Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. I had a couple of questions which I've been going back and forth with the Clerk's Department on over the last day or two. And I wondered if staff could, A, go through the memo that you provided, which is now online, which only came out, I think, earlier today, that sort of intended to respond to the public letter that came in last Friday. Wondered if you could walk us through that and the response to the letter from resident.
Of course, through you to the mayor, through the mayor to you, Councillor Adams, just to confirm, you'd like me to first go through the correspondence received?
Yeah, if you could go through the correspondence. So there's a number of concerns that were raised in the correspondence. You provided a memo which was intended to respond to that. I wondered if you could be a little bit more public about that for transparency purposes, because I'm not sure if the residents understood that that stuff was now online. And then second, as a separate issue, part of the conversation that was going on was with respect to the makeup of the committee and how the membership was created, and whether it would preclude people who are attached to election campaigns, either as paid workers or as volunteers or family members thereof. And I wondered if you could provide us some suggested wording to capture that category of people, to make sure that when a committee gets created, it's free and clear of any political shenanigans that might happen.
Absolutely. So through you to the mayor. So correspondence was received with respect to, at that time, it was item 9.5, and there was the central concern of the correspondence had to do with a few items, one being the degree of reliance on municipal administration, and another one being limited transparency measures identified in the terms of reference. So to that, a memo was prepared. It was included in the revised agenda, which was published this afternoon, provided to members of the public and members of council. So a few things that I wanted to highlight in the memo is the quasi-judicial nature of the Municipal Elections Compliance Audit Committee. So I'll refer to that as the committee moving forward. I also wanted to identify the administrative role of the clerk in establishing the committee and supporting its work in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act. So as I mentioned, the quasi-judicial nature of the committee operates at arm's length from the town as an independent and administrative tribunal. Its decisions are made independently and are subject to judicial review. It's important to note that clerks and municipal staff do not direct or influence committee decisions or outcomes. Staff support is strictly administrative in nature and includes coordinating meetings, managing timelines, and procuring independent third-party auditors where required. The proposed framework, which is attached as Appendix A to the staff report, is the draft terms of reference. Additional documentation that is to be developed is the rules of procedure, which incorporates administrative practices and procedures, along with applicable supporting documentation. All the documentation has been developed with the involvement of external legal counsel at all stages. And the importance of including external counsel it ensures that independent advice is provided to the structure, the processes, and that the documentation aligns with legislative requirements, administrative law principles, and procedural fairness. This really ultimately reinforces the independence of the committee from municipal or political influence. Also, it's important to note under the Municipal Elections Act, clerks are responsible for administering municipal elections and safeguarding the democratic process in a number of ways, which includes establishing this framework and the committee's creation. So as identified in the staff report, the participating municipalities of the proposed joint Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee will undertake a coordinated recruitment process for the committee members. This process is administered by a selection committee, which is comprised of clerks from the participating municipalities. And they are acting in their statutory role to administer the election framework. The recruitment, the evaluation, and appointment process will follow the approved terms of reference, which is before council tonight, and the rules of procedure, which, as I mentioned, is developed in consultation with external legal counsel. So having these procedures will ensure a consistent merit-based and transparent selection process across all participating municipalities, again, free from both political considerations as intended by the legislation. Now, the rules of procedure, so that includes the administrative practices and procedures, as well as any supporting documentation. So that would include the application that individuals will have to complete should they wish to apply to serve on the committee. These documents will be made publicly available, and it further sets out the detailed steps for recruitment and selection, which includes public notice of vacancies, standardized application requirements, eligibility criteria, and conflict of interest safeguards, which after I go into detail about the memo, I do have some further information around the selection and recruitment process, which may address your last question. So the one thing that I wanted to speak to was while Council does retain the authority to establish the committee and approve its governance framework, increasing direct council involvement, which I did hear in the correspondence that there was a desire to increase council involvement in administrative or adjudicative processes, such as recruitment or selection details, would risk compromising the committee's independence. The legislated model is intentionally structured to separate administrative and adjudicative functions from political decision-making, consistent with principles of administrative law. So introducing political oversight into these processes could expose the committee's work to legal challenge and undermine public confidence in its impartiality. Ultimately, however, as with all adjudicative bodies established by the legislature, like the committee, decisions made by the committee as well as how decisions are made are subject to scrutiny by the courts. So at this point, I'm going to ask my colleague to share the screen because I did just want to go over the selection, the recruitment process, and ways in which we safeguard and identify who is not eligible to serve on the Election Compliance Committee. So I will note that the screenshots that I've included, they are from the 2022 because these documents have not yet been developed until for 2026. I wanted to wait until the terms of reference was approved by Council. So when these documents are prepared and finalized, they will again be vetted and reviewed by external legal counsel. So Section 8837(2) of the Municipal Elections Act sets out who is not eligible to serve on an election compliance audit committee. So this includes municipal employees, officers, members of council, and any individuals who are candidates or registered third parties in the election for which the committee is established. So an excerpt of this legislation is provided on the screen. So moving to the next slide, the committee's terms of reference and rules of procedure further expand on these statutory restrictions. They disqualify individuals who have been candidates or third-party advertisers in either of the previous two regular elections, those who have conducted audits or provided financial advice for such campaigns, and any individuals who currently assist or intend to assist a candidate or registered third party, whether as a volunteer or for compensation, in the election for which the committee is established. As part of the application process, applicants must certify that all information provided is accurate. And so you'll see here that relevant excerpts from the 2022 applications are on the screen. And you'll see at the bottom of the screen that all applicants must certify that the information contained in their application is accurate, and they must sign that off. So we have discussed some amendments with respect to number 1C and E, just providing some clarity around the family members. And so there are amendments that will be incorporated into the revised rules of procedure, which includes this committee application. And so I do have a couple slides, but Councillor Adams, through you, Mayor Burton, please ask if you have a question at this point.
So with respect to the amendment to 1C of what you just showed us, the terminology, the wording that I saw was to move an amendment to include or any family members of same at the end of C, which would, so A, to add or campaign volunteer relationship or any family members of same into 1C, so that it captures anybody who's not only just employed by the campaign, but volunteers for the campaign or family member of any of those people.
Correct.
And so how would we make that happen? How do we make sure, how does council give you that direction?
So as through you, Mayor Burton, as mentioned earlier, we have received guidance from external counsel that it is important to seek council's approval on the establishment of the terms of reference and leave the administrative matters for staff with the clerks of the participating municipalities to establish the rules of procedure.
So you're saying this would be part of the rules of procedure, and we have to trust that staff will do that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, but these documents will be publicly posted online.
So the remedy is public sunshine on it, so to speak, because that'll be available?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. You included also a proposed third point for us to pass as part of the memo, and I wondered if you could just put that up.
Yep, absolutely. So I don't know if we have the ability to pull up the memo that was included in the revised agenda, so that council and the public could see it on screen. But it was more so to staff are recommending this added recommendation just for clarity, that the clerk be directed to proceed in coordination with the other lower tier municipalities to commence recruitment, selection, and appointment to establish the 2026 to 2030 Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee.
And so that gives you marching orders to proceed with not only just the creation of the terms of reference, but actually filling the spots.
Well, through you, Mayor Burton, through the terms of reference is attached as Appendix A, and that really does outline the mandate of the committee and the authority that the clerks of the participating municipalities have in establishing and recruiting the members.
So within the appendix, which has the terms of reference, it does include a set of criteria for which committee members must be precluded, but it does not include the details that you've added to the procedure within the slides that you just showed us.
Correct.
Is this the same set of terms of reference that we had previously?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So again, we have engaged external legal counsel throughout the way in terms of the development of the terms of reference, the draft administrative practices and procedures, and the staff report. And it was recommended, and this is in keeping with best practices across Ontario, to keep the terms of reference more broad, to establish the mandate, to establish the composition, and have it align with the Municipal Elections Act.
Okay, so the extra preclusions
Yes.
they're not in the terms of reference, but they're being added by way of the administrative allowance for staff to do.
Correct.
And so I'm just trying to figure out how does the public know that that's going to happen? Because it just kind of happens, but there's no direction.
If we do look to through you, Mayor Burton, looking at what we've done in past elections, we've included those restrictions in the past. And so we are going to look to not only best practices, which most municipalities do have similar restrictions, but we are also going to look to see what we've done in the past. And those restrictions were there, including the amendments, as I mentioned, to what we're proposing.
Okay, I'm going to leave off there. I know there's a couple of other councillors who have some questions, so let's hear from them and then see where we go.
Thank you, Councillor Milger.
Thank you, through Mayor Burton. Thank you very much for being here tonight, Andrew. So I guess I look at this and I see this as a quasi-judicial body that determines whether to order a compliance audit of elected candidates and whether to commence legal proceedings against them. So when I look at Section 7, first, it defers the actual procedural rules, how hearings are run, how conflicts are handled, what the evidentiary standards are, entirely to the clerk's department to develop later outside of council's view. The same section allows the clerks to amend those terms of reference without coming back to council, as long as they are consider the changes administrative. There's no defined limit on that. And third, well, eligibility restrictions are meaningful, there's no defined consequences. If a conflict of interest arises during the committee's term, there's no removal mechanism or no recusal procedure with teeth. Like, should that just be all the, should that really be on the clerk only, or should not council be involved in some of this stuff to at least approve it?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'd like to reiterate in answering your question, Councillor Elgar, that clerks, they do have the authority and they are responsible for administering municipal elections and safeguarding the democratic process. And we do that in a number of ways, one being the establishment of the framework and the committee's creation. And
I guess my question would be, can that be done prior to September the 1st? So that at least all councillors have got their DNA on it, agreeing to it?
Through you, Mayor Burton, the committee does have to be established by October 1st, which means we do need to recruit and select and appoint the members prior to October 1st. So what that means is the administrative practices and procedures and the supporting documents, which includes the application, which will identify those that are not eligible to run on the committee. Those, if we're working backwards, we have to have those documents available and we have to start the recruitment process at the latest by July in order to allow time to get the qualified applicants to submit their application to have that committee established by October 1st.
So could we get this information I mentioned detailed so that we all have our DNA agreeing to it? Like by August at least, or even end of July? If we could do that, I have absolutely no problems with what you're doing.
Through you, Mayor Burton, if I can clarify, Councillor Elgar, are you asking staff to report back to approve the rules of procedure for the committee?
That's what I was thinking. And then we've got our DNA on it too, not just a rubber stamp, which we are doing tonight.
Through you, Mayor Burton, what staff are trying to share with council is the guidance we've received from external counsel to identify the importance of separating the council involvement in the administrative matters with respect to the establishment and the recruitment and the selection of the members. So
I hear you. So what you're saying is council is just a rubber stamp on this, is what you're looking for.
Please go ahead.
I just want to get it out there so I know. Are we a rubber stamp, or do we have any that we would review and at least agree to everything? Not that we could not disagree probably with the legal staff, but I just want to know the answer here.
If I may.
Councillor,
yeah.
The solicitor has risen twice in an effort to assist. If you'll permit me to chair everybody, the chair will recognize our solicitor, Mr. Carr.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just to assist my colleague and the councillor, I certainly wouldn't use the word rubber stamp. What is before you reflects the reality of the statutory provisions of the Municipal Elections Act, which is really a complete code for the Compliance Audit Committee and how it operates under the provisions of that legislation. The Municipal Compliance Audit Committee is completely separate and apart from Municipal Council. It's not subject to the rules and provisions of the Municipal Act. It's not a committee of council. It's not a local board of council. It's completely arm's length, and it was set up deliberately that way by the province. I think back in 2006, before that, election campaign issues went to municipal councils. And then I think for various policy reasons, the province realized that that was not a good situation because it set up conflict of interest positions. So starting in about 2006, the province set up this completely independent quasi-judicial committee that is essentially a gatekeeper and it receives applications for audits and may or may not direct legal proceedings coming from their reviews. But it is completely subject to the robust principles of administrative law and subject to judicial oversight rather than political oversight. So that's how it's politically, been set up by statute. The clerk's role is set out in the statute to provide that administrative support. They're obligated, they have that duty, and it's in fulfillment of that duty that they're bringing this report forward. Council's role is under the Act to establish the committee by October the 1st, and at that point the clerks have their statutory role to complete the administrative processes and working with internal and external counsel to ensure everything is done to ensure procedural fairness.
So, Mr. Solicitor,
Carr,
before
Mr.
you,
Carr, I appreciate
Councillor, could you allow me to chair? Mr. Solicitor, could you just explain, therefore, why council is asked to approve the terms of reference?
The council is asked to approve the terms of reference to ensure consistency with the provisions of the Municipal Elections Act and to provide clerk with the direction to proceed and act in accordance with those provisions.
So the difference between there are word differences in the terms of reference from last time, which is what we're being shown, and word differences, and the differences are between the description of who can be on the committee and the terms of reference from last time. I gather this is the old terms of reference we're being asked to just renew the approval of. But in the slide that we were shown for the criteria, there are different words for the selection, and what the councillor has taken us through is the perception that there are some additional words needed, and so normally when we're approving something, we can amend it to approve it, and what I'm after here is advice from you that this approval that's required of us doesn't give us the right to amend it in any way.
No, I think in fairness, we're taking that as a direction to take that away, work with outside counsel to develop the practices and procedures that will reflect that change.
Right, but what my specific question is council not allowed to amend the terms of reference that we're being asked to approve?
You are allowed to amend the terms of reference, yes.
Thank you. In that case, it may well be that council might like to amend those terms of reference in order to assure itself that these cautions that we're asking for will be there, as opposed to asking external counsel if it would be okay to put it into another document further downstream.
Understood, yes. You're being asked tonight to approve terms of reference.
All right, counsel. So your solicitor's advice is that you are able to amend, and you're not required to just approve or rubber stamp, as Councillor Elgar called it. Councillor Elgar, thank you for your patience.
Member, I thank you. And getting a little more confused as I listen to what Mr. Carr said, because I do believe now it is a 100% rubber stamp, unless we ask to at least see how hearings are run, how conflicts are handled, and what evidentiary standards are. But there's and it goes on. Everything I read out earlier, and but I see why would we bother? Because really, I think it's into the legal hands, and I'm not going to go further than that. And I now understand, and I guess I'll just put up my hand and rubber stamp whatever comes forward, as long as that's what I see. Thank you.
Councillor, I didn't follow that last leap, but okay. Councillor has the teal. Your turn.
Thank you for your patience, and thank you for all you do to make sure our elections run smoothly and democratically. If I understand this last bit of the conversation, there are some opportunities to adjust the terms of reference to seek some clarity. So can you just point me to how we understand vexatious claims are dealt with?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that would be something that I would like to confirm, but we do address that in the terms of reference, the administrative practices and procedures. However, and I will ask our town solicitor to jump in if he has additional commentary, but ultimately, once an application, if we're speaking about a compliance audit application, once an application is received, it's up to the committee to receive it and determine what to do with it and its merit. And external counsel, as it was in 2022, and we will be retaining external counsel to guide and support the committee in understanding all terms around frivolous, vexatious, procedural fairness as well, and at the end of the day, really trying to recognize the principles of the Elections Act and apply that in any decision that they make.
So you referenced that they're going to get training.
Yes.
And so I used to live in the training world, and some people do it really quick and some people are really detailed. So are there examples provided? Is all of that, it's just so that people don't go through the pain just because somebody decided to throw a complaint at the committee?
Yep, through you, Mayor Burton, I might ask my colleague to throw up the slides that I had as the latest information that I did provide. If you wanted to just flip to slide 3, this is one example. Sorry, just page 3, it's probably coming. Yeah, procedural fairness. So the training that was provided to the committee in 2022, it was comprised of about 100 slides, and it was put on by external counsel. This is simply an example of the slide, and it does speak to procedural fairness. The excerpt that I included for this sake spoke to bias. And so this would speak to whether or not an individual would recuse themselves from a matter, declaring a conflict of interest or declaring an interest. So the training is comprehensive. It's typically done a month or two prior to the compliance audit period closing in order for the information and the material to be fresh and relevant for the committee.
Thank you for that great explanation. So the other question I have is a removal mechanism. So while we would always hope that people are forthright and honest, there may be a circumstance where somebody did not declare something they should have. Is there a removal mechanism?
Through you, Mayor Burton, absolutely. We will be including that in the administrative practices and procedures. Again, these will be posted to the town's website, as it will be required to be available in order for individuals to apply to ensure eligibility. So that will be available on the town's website prior to recruitment commencing.
So my last comment and question is, in the terms of reference, it uses the phrase, advice providing relationship with any candidate running for office on council or third-party advisor. It doesn't say what you had in your memo to us, where the question was, it wasn't as detailed as what you've got in the memo you sent us. And I'm wondering if are you telling us you're going to put what's in the memo in the terms of reference, so would preclude family, friends, election campaign volunteers, or their families from being appointed? Are you saying that's what you're going to put in the terms of reference?
Through you, Mayor Burton, there is going to be additional committee composition details included in the administrative practices and procedures that will go into greater detail around that, including the pieces that would be included in the application, which I showed on the screen earlier.
So I think the part that's confusing me a tiny bit, Andrea, is that we have a terms of reference in front of us, but really we need an Appendix B, which is the administrative piece, and that's why we're kind of wondering where are certain things.
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Hazel-Thiel, absolutely understand. In past years, both the terms of reference and the administrative practices and procedures have been presented to council for approval. It was under the recommendation of external counsel that we've retained to assist and guide in the development of these documents that recommended the terms of reference be limited with all of those specific details placed in the administrative practices and procedures, not to be presented to council for approval. Again, speaking to that political oversight piece that I spoke to earlier.
Yeah. No, I absolutely appreciate that we have to have arm's length about all of this. But if we are approving a terms of reference, understanding those other elements, I really don't think they're administrative as much as they are really telling us this is the scope of what's going to happen, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to explain it to us.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thanks, Andrea. And yeah, just to sort of springboard off of what Janet was saying, you know, it's kind of hard for us to sit here and have to approve. And as the town solicitor said, we get to amend the terms of reference tonight, but it needs to be politically separated, but we don't have the information. So I mean, how do we define what a family member is? Is it a first cousin, second cousin, third cousin? Is it you know, what's the scope we're looking at here? Are those people posted publicly first so anybody can raise objections if they say actually that is a relative of somebody that I know? Like how is all this gonna sort of evolve over the next three or 4 months that we are responsible tonight to make a decision on?
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor O'Meara. So with respect to your first question, in terms of amending the terms of reference, if you wanted to include specific detail, we can do that. There's no definitions currently included in the terms of reference. I would turn to the town solicitor to confirm this, but in terms of definition of family members, it's typical to rely on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act and the definition that they provide in that. Which, if there's a desire, we can amend the terms of reference to include that. And in terms of your next question about somebody being able to object to the appointment of a member, I may turn to the town solicitor to ask him to comment.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think that becomes a challenge to try and narrow down tonight in terms of specific amendments to the terms of reference. I think this falls squarely within the realm of administrative processes and procedures which are continuing to be developed with the assistance of external counsel. So with the indulgence of counsel, that's an area that we would develop in the course of developing those documents. I would concur with Andrea's suggestion about looking to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in terms of the definition of family member, if you wish to incorporate that this evening in the in the terms of reference.
Okay, Council. Is there Councillor Adams?
I've just forwarded to members of council and to the clerk a proposed amendment to the motion to change the terms of reference for the committee, which would effectively be an amendment to part 2 of the recommendation. I want to make sure you've got that. And perhaps if the clerk could take a look at that and let us know if that terminology would be satisfactory, that would be helpful.
It doesn't define family member.
So so it reads, for everybody who's following back at home, that the terms of reference be amended to add the following to the list of individuals who are not eligible to sit on the committee. So this would add a number of categories consistent with the framework that we were shown earlier, but adds some change to the first bullet, which is any persons who are candidates or registered third parties in the 2026 municipal election, or any persons connected to a candidate through employment, contractual business partnership, or campaign volunteer relationship, or any family members of the same. So the intent is that candidate, their families, their volunteers, the volunteers' families, and employees and their families would be precluded. Then any persons who have participated as a candidate for office or registered third party in the past 2 regular elections, or who have conducted audits or provided financial advice in respect of such campaigns. So that's the same as what we were shown earlier. And third, any persons who do or intend to assist any candidate or registered third party as a volunteer or for compensation in the 2026 municipal election. So I see Councillors O'Meara and Elgar have their hands up. Maybe they have additions or changes or suggestions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Yeah, I thank you. I just have, I think it's difficult with the terminology that says anyone who's involved in in an election. I mean, we've 30% voter turnout, so already only 30% of people are even aware that municipal elections are happening. To say that anybody who dropped a door knocker on somebody's door doesn't have the right to challenge something or be involved on a committee, I think is probably a little too much over the pale here. I mean, these are people that are engaged. They're not people that are not engaged, and I think they do it. I think we go out on a limb here where we're trying to say, oh, I'm sorry, you put a door knocker up for somebody? Yeah, you can't be involved, right? We're getting into a corner here that I think we're limiting the availability of people to engage in our municipal process that there's already small enough. I don't think doing this on the fly is might be the best way to do it, because I think we're gonna get into a circle here that, somebody alleges I saw somebody put a door hanger up and they're now on the committee. Now I want to challenge that. I mean, I don't know how we test that or how we judge that one.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you, through Mayor Burton, to Councillor Adams. Tom, I'm trying to figure out the last one, any persons who do or intend to assist any candidate. I'm just wondering how we could really enforce, how we would know for sure. That's the one that I think I'd like it, but I'm just trying to figure, how could we determine that?
Councillor Elgar, it's a great question, but that's what our clerks are already using. That's what they used last time around.
I'm not sure how well that worked.
Councillors, you don't need to wonder, because our Deputy Clerk, Andrea Coyne, has an answer.
Okay, perfect.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'll once again ask my colleague to pull up the slide deck. On the last slide, it is just the fourth safeguard measure that we have with respect to ensuring no conflict of interest. At the start of every meeting, we do have the chair confirm with members any declarations of interest. So this may provide some solution to the fact that even if an individual volunteered or placed a door knocker on somebody's door on behalf of a candidate, and they were then, or their family member, a family member of the such, is a member of the committee. At the start of all meetings, they do have to declare a conflict of interest with the matter at hand. So if it was a door knocker, or if their sister or their aunt participated in a voluntary way on a campaign of another candidate, then they would not have to declare a conflict of interest in that case, but if it was the candidate in question in which they were involved or their family member was involved in, they would have to, in accordance with the rules of procedure, have to recuse themselves because of a conflict of interest, and they would declare a conflict of interest.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for saying that. So I hear what you're saying. You're taking their word for it. So if they are not telling the truth, we have no way of knowing any different. I appreciate that. I'm not sure how well it works, but that's all I'll have to say. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. I have a question for the mover of the motion. Actually, I have a question of council first. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Knoll, thank you. I have a question for the mover of the motion. Is the third bullet included in the first bullet? Is there any chance that you're being duplicative?
I would say yes. It is a duplication. It's as I said, it's similar to what the clerks have been using previously. So, to the extent that there's duplication, it might already be there. Though the first bullet is now including campaign volunteers, where the previous clerk's material did not include volunteers in that line.
So maybe.
So if you want to strike the third bullet, I would think I'd be okay with that.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to. I'm not asking you to strike it. I'm asking you if you think it's duplicative, and if it is, and you want to keep it, you might want to add the tail of the first one to the tail of the third one.
The only difference that is there within the third one is that it's forward-looking, because it says any person who does or intends to. So there's an element of I'm signing up to be on this committee.
Right.
And
so the tail of the first bullet, the family members, you're omitting it from the third bullet, and I'm asking why.
Oh, well, it could be added in.
Well, if you and the seconder could work that out, council needs to know what it's going to vote on.
Okay. If you'll give me a minute, I think I'd be happy to add the extra wording to the third bullet, so that it would read, any persons who do or intend to assist any candidate or registered third party as a volunteer or for compensation in the 2026 municipal election or any. I think I do need some more time.
All
Please give me a moment.
All right, so we're happy, I think, to take it to read it in, and the clerks will add it in the final version. You don't need to do another circulation unless you want to. I don't think we've heard from Councillor Knoll on this yet, and Councillor O'Meara and Councillor Hazlitt all we have, so I'm jumping down to Councillor Knoll, and we'll come back. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. Just a helpful potential clarification. I know that the solicitor addressed this in some of his comments, but instead of using the word family member, FIPA refers to close relatives, and it has a definition of what a close relative is, so it becomes less ambiguous. Should we not use that terminology? Oh, sorry, to the mover.
If that would be the preference of our legal staff, I'd be happy to include it. That terminology.
Yeah.
That is in effect the intent here.
Yeah. Because it avoids the ambiguity of what a family member is, and FIPA clarifies what a close relative is. So we could, that's the legislation we're already working under. So why not?
Mr. Solicitor.
I always get uncomfortable when we start drafting on the council floor. And these are excellent questions, and you don't want to get them wrong. And the other point I'll also make is that all of our partner municipalities also have to endorse the terms of reference, right? So what we do here might not meet what Burlington wants to do, or some of the other participating municipalities. I just raise that as a flag. The only comment I would make is the previous exclusion referenced family and family members. And so if we're moving away from that language, I think we'd want to be very clear about the difference and what the implications are of moving away from that. And to, in all candor, I don't feel I can give you a clear answer on that tonight between family and close relation. Was that the phrase, Councillor?
In FIPA refers to close, I think it's close relative. Yeah, it defines a close relative. A close relative is defined as parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, nephew, or niece included by adoption.
And you're reading that from?
In FIPA.
Did the solicitor hear you?
Oh, in FIPA. It's from the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Yeah.
Well, it's for the mover and seconder to decide how they want to phrase it. You've had the advice of the solicitor.
Well, I'll follow I would prefer to go with that because then it's absolute clarity, because I don't remember who raised it over here, but I mean, that's always a consideration when you say family member. It depends on how you define family, and different people define family in different ways. Close relative that's actually tied into legislation, I think, makes some sense.
I await your decision.
I would, in a perfect world, we pull up the MEA definition, because we're talking about MEA stuff here.
All right. While you do that, we will return to Councillor O'Meara and Councillor Hazleteel. Councillor O'Meara, thank you for your patience.
No problem. I just, the third bullet that you're asking people to prove intent. And if you've ever watched Matlock, the one thing you can't do is prove intent. So if you intend to support somebody, I mean, that's just a fail right there. You can't prove intent. So we're setting ourselves up for failure there. I intended to do something or I didn't. At this point, I'd be more comfortable if we just referred this back to staff to take a look. I don't think we're doing this on the fly, as our solicitor said right now. We're not comfortable with what's happening. To me, this is not making sense what we're doing right now. Instead of going smaller and micro on what a family is defined as, why don't we just pull back and say, if you have or you appear to have a conflict of interest, that's enough, and you better declare it. When you start getting into, well, I was a second cousin and not a third, I mean, we're getting down a path here that I don't think is helpful to anyone. So I'll let it work its course for a minute, but I would be more than happy to refer this back to staff to come back to us with a little bit more clarity, because I don't think this is helping us at all right now. So I'll step back.
Councillor Hazleteel.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'd like to move deferral to give everyone an opportunity to consider what's been said. I think the solicitor was very clear. We're trying to draft on the fly, and I really do appreciate Councillor Knoll's fluency. Like, you've raised some interesting points, but come back with something that's that has considered all this and tell us one last time. So versus just this back and forth debate. So I move deferral. Let's see if that helps us.
Councillor, is there a seconder for a motion to defer? Councillor O'Meara. Now, Councillor Hazleteel, a motion to defer is a motion to delay, and it has no object, it has no return date, and we are told that we must approve a terms of reference. Would you like to consider how to rephrase your motion, or shall I? I mean, otherwise I would vote against it.
So, Mayor Burton, if I say refer it back to consider what has been said and return by June 1st, would that meet the standard?
It would be even better if we, I think, referred it to the town solicitor to draft it for us.
I think that sounds great.
Well, thank you for that. Councillor O'Meara, are you comfortable seconding that? Then, Councillor Chisholm, unless you're speaking on whether to refer it to the solicitor or not, you're out of order. You have to wait.
Yes.
All right. Is there any objection to the motion to refer to the solicitor to draft it for us? Councillor Knoll and Councillor Chisholm, your hands are up.
I apologize.
I'm going to assume that you're not objecting.
Not objecting, but can I ask a question with respect to the other municipalities and where?
No.
Okay, I'm out of order.
There being no objection, Mr. Clerk, the motion to refer succeeds, and you can save your questions for the return of the item. That's how that process works. So 3.5 did not pass. Now, we have, all right, Council, the most important thing on the agenda tonight is actually the 5.1 discussion item, the comprehensive study of Oakville's urban forest. And you've been sitting and working hard, and I think you need a 5-minute break. So we'll return at 9 o'clock. We're in recess.
Recording stopped.
All right, I'm calling council back to order. And before we turn to 5.1, the chair recognizes Councillor Hazlet-Deal.
Mayor Burton, through you, item 5.2, Town Square Project Update. Well, I would obviously respect all the other councillors' desire if they wish a presentation. I can affirm for you that from a BIA perspective, from the local councillors' perspective, we are very supportive of the hard work that's been done on the Town Square project, the necessary additional mitigation measures that have been worked through so that you can know that when it's all said and done, there is a town square that you're going to continue to love even more. And so I'd like to move the recommendation if that would assist us tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Could we get a seconder for that? Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Council, is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, I'm going to assume the mover's hand is not an objection, and I'm going to declare that this is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And now, 5.1, iTree, the Growing Resilience, a comprehensive study of Oakville's urban forest 2025. If we give our attention to Jalil Hashimi, the Manager of Forest Service, we will be edified and delighted, and or Chris, depending on whether the script I've been handed is operative or not.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I was going to introduce Mr. Hashemi, but you've done a terrific job of that, so I'll just turn it over to Jalil, and he'll take us through the presentation.
It's great working with you, Chris. Thank you. Jalil, welcome. I've been looking forward for this for 2 days, so.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll be presenting the results of iTree Urban Forest Study, which provides a comprehensive assessment of our urban tree population, tree health, structure, canopy cover, leaf area, urban forest function, and ecosystem benefits. This project was a collaborative effort involving the town of Oakville and several specialized partners from industry and research, bringing strong technical expertise to the study. The study area is south of Dundas Street, shown in red here, and just going to explain why not north. And I'm going to reserve, because I'm trying to finish this presentation in 10 minutes, I'm going to reserve what we have done for north and what we're going to be done for the questions. You can ask question at the end. Why not? Because as you know, or not know, iTree is a plot-based inventory. So it means that the certain plots go and information collected, and then information is going to be used from that moment on. It means that the plots are landing on changing landscape in an intensive transitional urbanized area, which is going through from a vacant land in a year or 2 years to a different land use, then it's obsolete. It's not going to help us at all. And normally, we do not do iTree in an area that transition is fast-paced, and we are changing in 1 year to the other year. It can be limited just to an area of assumed land with a specific land use that is not changing, and we have done that. Ask question, and I'm going to tell you what we have done. The purpose was to support evidence-based decision-making, quantifying the ecological benefit, and guide the strategies to achieve our 40% healthy canopy cover target by 2057. The study used a suite of I3 tools. Here, it titled Project Component to assess forest structure, environmental benefits, and canopy cover. I walk through the key findings following by recommendation. Data collected from 372 plots shows Oakville tree population has increased by 700 trees since 2015, as well as species diversity and environmental. Did I say 700,000? Okay. And environmental benefit like pollution removal and carbon sequestration also have increased, while tree mortality has decreased. Also, you can see that we don't have Norway maple amongst the top tree species in leaf area anymore. Overall, indicating actually a much healthier urban forest. We're seeing a shift toward more trees on public land, while the percentage of private tree population declined. This has important implication for long-term canopy plan on private properties. Tree size distribution shows the largest increases in small trees between 0 to 7.6 centimeters. Mainly, it's actually between 5 to 7.6 centimeters, and that's reflecting a strong planting and natural regeneration started from 2016. Leaf area density by land use shows residential land use has the highest leaf area, followed by woodland, reinforcing the critical role private properties play in achieving canopy targets. Carbon storage by tree species data showing large stature trees such as maple and oak contribute to the most total carbon storage, reflecting both growth and long-term planning success. Looking at net carbon sequestration by tree species data, Norway maple lead annual sequestration, significant increase in white cedar and buckthorn population, showing an increase in carbon sequestration as well. But sugar maple that increased in size and storage, reduced annual sequestration. That highlights how tree health and growth dynamic influence the outcome. Carbon sequestration by land use indicate residential areas, A and B together, contributes more net carbon sequestration than woodlands. Again, emphasizing the importance of private land in delivering environmental benefits. Annual air pollution removal by urban forest data indicates a significant increase in air pollution removal since 2015. Resulting in major health benefit, particularly reduction of the most critical pollutant, PM 2.5, which also shows the highest associated value. The major potential pests threatening urban forests include spotted landerfly and Asian longhorn beetle and oak wilt. And as you know, spotted landerfly and Asian longhorn, we don't have it in Oakville, and as well as oak wilt. But the two first one, they do have a much wider host species. That's why the impact on structural value of urban forest is more significant. Here you can see that I3 street tree assessment is based on our tree inventory, indicates street tree population increased by over 10,000 trees since 2015, while maintaining a very high health rating of 95%. Street tree size distribution shows the highest population is actually in mid-class, mainly is 15 to 30. That is the result of ash tree removal and extensive tree planting on a street in 2015, 16, 17. That trees are growing now to that size classes. Leaf area versus population data, reiterating that tree species with higher proportion of leaf area per size, like Norway maple, silver maple, and little leaf linden, contribute disproportionately more canopy benefit relative to their population. The dot is the population. The bar, the blue bar, is the leaf area. In terms of annual ecosystem services, which include pollution removal, avoided runoff, and carbon sequestration, Norway maple and silver maple, followed by honey locust and little leaf linden, provide the highest ecosystem services. Interestingly, treated ash trees are also amongst the top 10 trees providing high ecosystem services. The tree hazard abatement cost in major storm, like the one that we experienced in December 2013 ice storm, is over $18 million. It has increased significantly from 7.1 million in 2015. And I do remember ice storm, we spent 6.5 million in 2013 and 14, mainly in 14. That is driven by larger tree population and rising operational cost, of course. This map shows, this is a part of I-Tree Hydro Study Area, which include all watershed that the town of Oakville is located in, including south and north. This is not a plot-based. Included north, Oakville represent 18% of the watershed area. But you need to know that we are creating actually, or contributing 28% of the total runoff. However, the 24% tree cover in Oakville, see that 19.5 plus 4.3, tree over pervious and tree over impervious, compared to 3.3% in the whole watershed, that really plays a critical role in managing runoff and should be considered a key component of watershed management, increasing canopy cover. The urban forest cooling effect data indicates every 10% increase in canopy cover is associated with about 2 degrees reduction in maximum temperature in urbanized area. You can see in this slide that different methods, point-based versus continuous, using imagery as Google View, satellite image, or LiDAR, provide different results and different numbers. In the preparation of the report, we noticed that using Google View, 30.26 to 30.2, this is inconsistent with the number of trees that have been planted, 700,000 trees, how it declined. I ask, actually, we ask the consultant to find the inconsistency, and they find out that in Google View, that have been used since when I-Tree become public, free for everyone, they're using Google Earth View, and that is a mosaic of different pixels. And those pixels, you expect that they're all from the same year, and they're all either leaf off or leaf on, but it's not the case. Some of those pixels are leaf on, some of those pixels are leaf off, because it doesn't intend to be a base for a research. It's for people going from A to B pretty much, and seeing things without cloud cover of everything. And it also, some parcels or pixels are outdated or from the years before. For that reason, we asked to go to a more robust method, which is continuous land classification, which is not based on the point, and use satellite image, aerial photo, and LiDAR for the continuation of this study. And this is one of the recommendations that in future, we are going to use continuous land classification and satellite image, aerial photo, and LiDAR. So, and that result shows that our canopy from 2015 increased from 25.5% to 29%, which is the most accurate and is still the highest. This is slide just as an example. See the 2015 on your left and 2024. The small gaps, this is what LiDAR does. This is both the same area, but one of them is just by remote sensing data. The other one, plus LiDAR, which is canopy height model, is the smallest gap in a woodland. And the other one is from the town looking south. You will see everything here. You will see building, you will see the trees, power lines, you see hydro poles, and all of them can be also measured, the heights of trees and everything. So with that accurate continuous land classification and what we have accomplished, still all of the land uses increased the canopy cover, and the only land use decreased the canopy cover was woodland from 81.1% to 78%, almost 3%, and this is due to ash removal and due to buckthorn removal, and to the fact that our extensive woodland regeneration is at earliest stage. They're establishing, but they're not showing a canopy yet. And also, this canopy height model is not considering any vegetation shorter than 3 meters. That's why they're not captured here. And this one again reiterate the importance of residential land, providing 47% of our canopy, and the second one 38%. So in summary, the urban forest is growing and delivering more benefits, but we are seeing an increased pressure from invasive buckthorn from 2% in 2005 to 10% in 2015, and now 16%. We're seeing an increase in impervious land cover and also a decrease in potential planting area. The finding highlight the importance of linking invasive species management and forest ecology with forest management, and applying biological and ecological knowledge to urban forest management and conservation. Recommended action items include continuing woodland regeneration and invasive species management, particularly targeting buckthorn, and updating woodland inventory for woodlands heavily affected by EAB. Additional comments is include finding innovative mechanism increasing tree planting on private lands, which is very important. Using continuous land classification method that make use of satellite imagery and known vintage and LiDAR data to assess urban forest canopy, and include North and South Dundas in our next I3 study, which is in 2033. At that time, I believe that we can have our plots landed in the non-transitional land uses. And thank you for your patience, and I would be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hashimi. We have questions. Half of council has questions. Councillor Chisholm is first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jill, I must commend you on the detail and the technology that we have for our tree canopy and what you're providing, the information. It's well established, and we're moving in the right direction. The only question I have is the buckthorn. That seems to be an increase. And is it really a tree, or is it more plant material? Is it shrubs? Buckthorn, is it classified as a tree?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Based on the height and arboricultural definition, yes, it's a tree. And as long as when they are under 4 meters, we call them shrubs. But when they reach the height of 4 meters and above, we call them trees. For that, it is both. It is in our plot data, you can see that in shrub layer, and you can see that as tree layer, depending on the height.
So in the report, you've also indicated under noxious weeds under the property standards. Is that been clarified, or is that now still in the works with respecting to get rid of buckthorn in residential area? Is that because of residential, you're looking at the noxious weed property standards bylaw? I'm trying to understand how that's going to work.
Through you, Mayor Burton, there are some species that the direction from Invasive Species Center, MNR, we can easily enforce. There are one that they are identified and invasive, and we can also include a buckthorn in that category and ask that as a property standard, if the private property have buckthorn, order them under property standard to remove them.
So the bottom line, if it's on private property, we don't have really any authority to say go in there and take it out. But under the property standards, and moving that now creates the situation where we can put notice out to the private landowner saying you have to get rid of this or else. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, that's correct.
I like that.
There are facilitation in private tree bylaw. They don't have to pay for buckthorn removal, and they're exempt from permit fee and replacement. That's facilitation, but we don't enforce private property to remove buckthorn. We can't. On the property standard, we can.
Okay, and my last question, eliminating Google Earth, because I guess the technology is not kept up, and you're looking at the LiDAR, is that correct?
To you, Mayor Burton, I3, because of the funding problem in the United States, is not available as a free software. They're asking for donation from different. So we're not going to have that anymore. But regardless, we find out that I3 Canopy, using I3 Canopy model is not accurate because we would like to have the ability to go with a combination of multispectral remote sensing image plus LiDAR, which is not, this is a different, and we are suggesting that we, the town, to implement that. It's not costly. It's in the report, $9,000 a year to receive that, for us to do that every year and provide you an updated canopy cover every year by that cost with the accuracy.
Jalil, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, great presentation, Jalil. Question. In 9 years, Buckthorn goes from third top to number one. Having been on the working side of a contraption to pull buckthorn out by the roots, I know the difficulty very well in terms of pulling these things out. What kind of program do we have to deal with them when they're fairly young and small without the root buildup?
Through you, Mayor Burton. We do include that in most of our communication with our NGO partners in Oakville Green. They are participating in anything that is not able, it doesn't need any tools. They are also helping us. It's not about the size and complexity. It's about the size that the earlier, the better. If we start sooner, because as they grow, it's not just about how difficult it is. They change the physiochemical characteristic of the soil. There is a balance between mycorrhiza and rhizogenes. And so this balance is changed, and when this balance changes, no other other trees can grow rather than buckthorn. That's why the younger, the better. But our mechanism is woodland regeneration. All of them start with buckthorn removal, regardless of the size. We remove all of the buckthorn, especially in prime site, and then we plant native trees, and we treat them not to come back. And under invasive species audit control, also we have a section of just removal of buckthorn and treatment. That's it. And letting natural regeneration and natural succession of the woodland to take over. So those are applicable, but there are certainly limitation in resources, both financial resources and physical resources, which we are working within that limitation.
No, thank you. I appreciate the constraints. I didn't realize that buckthorn, as it matured, rendered the soil useless for other trees to grow. Does that wear off in time, or is that permanent?
When it changes in time, we can plant trees. When not, we need to do some additional work of soil, actually, remediation, let's say.
And the difficult, if I understand correctly, the difficulty with mature buckthorn is if you cut it out, you have to apply an herbicide of some sort, or else the roots just multiply out of control.
Through you, Mayor Burton, either way, we have to apply. If we don't take them by the roots, we have to apply, regardless of the size. And they have extensive roots. The size might not be that big, but even shrub size, they have extensive roots. And we need either to do that, or we can just spray the standing buckthorn, and that's very, very effective, and it kills them, actually.
Right.
And it changes.
In terms of forest health, 2015, 83%, and 2024, 57%. Is that weather, climate related, pollution related? What's the leading driver on that?
if I may ask to repeat those numbers, please. The numbers, please.
83% of the trees in good or excellent condition for the forest health and crown, and that's dropped to 57%. Quite a drop.
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton. The reason I didn't bring it up and discussed is iTree actually changed their classification. They used to have a good, and they didn't have any excellent. They changed that, and the whole change of that make the comparison obsolete. You can't compare things that have been changed. The classification for fair, good, excellent changed in 2017 or 18, if I remember correctly. For that
I
reason,
appreciate
cannot
that.
count that. Yeah.
I will look at it as not as big a negative. Then we'll go with that one.
To you, Mayor Burton, there in technical report, which is also going to be available for councillor, that has been well explained about the change of the methodology that make that number not comparable.
Excellent. And the percentage of possible pervious planting area, quite a drop. Is that because we've planted in most of the likely spaces and we're running out of boulevards and parks to plant trees?
Through you, Mayor Burton, both that is one reason. The other, the increasing of pervious, impervious, the increase is 4%, 40 to 44%. It's not 10%. So the 10% is decrease of tree plant, available potential tree planting space, which pretty much I can tell that 98% of our streets and parks south of Oakville are stocked. And we are having a very, intensive woodland regeneration that taking all of that number and bringing that down. So technically, we're moving to that direction of using every applicable, plantable space. That's why the number goes down and down.
All right, and last question. We've got a lineup of my colleagues here. You're doing what you can to encourage residents to plant on private property. At the same time, we have fewer public places to plant these trees. So just maybe that's something we could discuss at a later time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. I just want to mention that we do have some ideas that have been discussing in community services with parks and open space. Other municipalities are using different, like Montreal are having a grant program for planting trees. And we do actually now working with Oakville Green, providing trees for schoolyards, and they do the manual work. There are things that we have started already, and we're going to continue on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar, thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, through Mayor Burton. I thank you for this detailed report. It's a report I think we all appreciate. I know one thing is that you mentioned town plants a minimum of 5,600 trees per year. I think that's important because what you're saying is if we keep doing that, you are hoping by 2049 that we'll have 40% cover. And also by 2057, 44% cover. Do you feel that is accurate information? Because that's good news.
Through you, Mayor Burton, that's an analysis based on available pervious area that we do have. Technically, this is a desktop practice, and we know that we are not able to have the existing condition of keeping all of the pervious surfaces. The urban intensification is a reality. We cannot stop that, and that's going to change. For that reason, this is a desktop. It's a good story that we are capable based on existing impervious. If it doesn't change at all, and if we plant the trees to the number that we are able, budget-wise and all of that, we can achieve canopy cover that early in 2044. But the reality is we need to work hard to have canopy cover target, which I still believe is achievable, 40% by 2057. Not
44%. 44.
Not
Yeah.
44%. Our goal, our guideline, our canopy plan guideline that we have updated it, improved it recently
Okay.
with the help of Planning and Development Department. Our intention is achieving 40% by 2057. I think this is more reasonable expectation.
Okay, so when I read the report where it says 40% by 2049 and 44% by 2057, that's changed now to 40% in 2057?
Through you, Mayor Burton. No, that is the assessment of existing condition. It doesn't change, and everything that we do have now convert all the plantable space, all the pervious area that we do have to be converted within that period of time to trees. If we do that, yes, but this is like a desktop practice. The continuous land classification normally provide a very positive, vision that you are able to do that still, but you have to work based on the reality. This is an exercise based on existing, whatever. Stop everything and give us all the money. Yes.
Well, that's where I was going. So the money, as long as you get 5,600 trees a year, that's enough money? Or you need more?
If we plant 5,600 trees a year, and yes, we can achieve that. And
Okay.
5,600 actually. 5,600.
Yeah, 5,600.
Yeah, and 5,600 are, you can compare that with on a street and parks, not in woodland, on a street and parks. And that is the number, and the current number is 2,000.
I'm glad you brought up the woodlands because we're going there next, and that concerns me. The health is declining. I know Councillor Giddings mentioned 2015, we had 83%, a good to excellent. 2024 dropped to 57%. However, woodlots, the ecological heart of the forest, the lowest percentage of healthy trees at 43%, and the highest rate of dead trees is 10%. That's a concern. And I know, and buckthorn since 2005 has gone from 2% and now in 2015 it was 10.6%. And now it's 16% already. And as you say, that's a big concern. And it's overtaken the eastern white cedar and the sugar maple, and it's dominating the woodland layers. Yeah. So I guess you're active on that. So I just think this is one of the better reports I've ever read because you're not just all painting a happy news story for everybody. It's we have to wake up. Development pressure. I love it. The report explicitly identifies Bill 23, more homes built faster, as a concern, noting it narrowed the mandate of the conservation authorities and reduced the scope of the site plan requirements as they relate to the urban forest. Thank you. Since 2018, the canopy loss in North Oakville has been directly attributed to new subdivision development clearing of land. Again, excellent report. Pervious planting area has dropped from 31% to 21%. What's really shocking is the impervious surfaces, the roads, buildings, parks have increased by 401 hectares since 2015, now covering 44% of South Oakville. So that's that's impervious based on the roads, buildings, and parking. And it's 44% that's where we are now. Wow. Key recommendations. Well, something we have to make sure we listen to you say 5,600 trees. We have to enhance our targets. I'm wondering, should we enhance them more? Is 5,600 enough? I'm asking.
Through you, Mayor Burton, in road and parks, it might not be as easy as planting 5,600 trees. We definitely, if we bring forward in 2027 budget an increase of 2,000 trees to 5,600 trees, then once the budget's approved, we are going to start implementing that. However, The first year, the second year might be a pilot, and we'll see how much of the plantable space on a street and active park we do have to plant. It's not, as you appreciate, it's an area that the main intention is balancing rather than stopping any urban intensification, because it's, to the best of my knowledge, in an urbanized area with a big portion of the properties are private properties, we legally don't have the control to stop urban intensification. And considering that, we might be some real limitation. And the good story is, regardless of all of that change of land impervious from 40 to 44%, still we do have residential land that contribute 47% to our urban tree canopy. That's impressive to me. So it's a combination of good story and bad story. The reality, I think it's always like this. I think the real life is also a combination of good and bad. And we try to expand our ability to work in the good area while understanding the reality of urban intensification is a reality in urbanized area.
Well,
all
I realize
across the universe.
Yeah, because you do say protect the pervious growing space through zoning. Require the minimum permeable area in all new development. I guess that's, as you have to say, to the degree possible that we can. I thank you for the report, extremely detailed and not all just glowing. It's giving us a taste of reality. I thank you to you and your staff and to Chris, Mark, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you so much, Jaleel. And I just want to start off by saying, I know we talked a few weeks ago and you're supposed to be on a flight somewhere with your family tonight and last night, and you delayed that. So our decisions have real impacts on our staff's lives. So I appreciate you, what you do for us and being here to give us this report. I know it means a lot to you and your family. So thank you for that. Just one question with regards to the buckthorn, and it's to go off of Councillor Giddings' images. There are a lot of people I know who have buckthorn in their backyards. Is there a program by which the town will come by and, as the only authority that can put the chemicals on it, that will not allow it to seed and sprout? Are we considering a program whereby the town can work with private property owners to eliminate buckthorn? Where we will go by, if they cut it down, we will spray it. So it cannot continue to grow. And we will maybe give them some other, we're looking to plant trees. We will give them some other alternative. What are we doing to incentivize every single backyard owner who has buckthorn growing everywhere to get rid of it and to transfer over to natural species?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we don't have that currently, but I think it's a great idea. I think we can venture that. However, we should respect the limitation of are we allowed to work on private property as being town employee or invest our resources on private property because of buckthorn? This is something that I probably am going to need, legal department to help me understand whether I am allowed to do that or not. But however, if you're allowed, if council believe that we should do that, it's like we can donate our time rather than money. We can donate our time and treat them.
Well, I look forward to that, and I look forward to hopefully helping you develop that program. And at budget time, I mean, as the only authority that can use chemicals and use pesticides for invasive species, other than golf courses or something, that you hold a special place in terms of being able to knock this stuff down and do it. And I think there are a ton of private homeowners who would love to partner with the town and say, I got all this crap growing here, and it keeps growing. And if you've got the know-how, I've got the land, and we'll do something better. So maybe perhaps there's a recommendation for or a request for report coming for the next term of council, where we can look at a program where we work with private property residents, get rid of the buckthorn, because that is obviously a problem for everyone. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Burton, just for clarification, I didn't say that we are the only one. Any landscaping company, any arboriculture firm with exterminator license, they are available. If they pay them, they're available. They can do the treatment with the garland that they have, not just municipal government. They can do that too.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you so much for the presentation. I do understand that this study was not done in the north, but just a question about the future study, if you're able to answer. We don't have a lot of private lot trees. A lot of our street trees are just on the boulevard. And so I was wondering, for your future study, will you be looking at different criteria in terms of measurement of what will be acceptable canopy coverage in the north?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we have already started because we thought that after this report done in 2024, it is not fair for North Oakville. We need to know what's going on in North Oakville. We measured all the trees in all the subdivision in 2016 and compared them, and we measured them back currently, and we measured their growth, and we find out that some of our guidelines that we used to apply for canopy and spacing is not helping North to achieve the 20% canopy cover target for residential area North. That's why we work with Planning and Development Department, the staff and forestry staff helped together, and we updated that. Now we do have a different, actually guideline, which a different spacing, and I presented that to the builders and developers liaison two times, and that helped us to achieve the 20% canopy for that. And in addition, what we are going to do is in 2027, the 9,000 budget, which is a part of this report, is including North and doing a continuous land classification canopy assessment for North and South, as well as the 2033, which is going to be I3 combination of both North and South.
Okay, thank you. And so do you know if certain species of trees were used in the north to limit growth?
Through you, Mayor Burton, this species are Planning Department and Forestry working together again to say the native species. And this species is first, the species is preferred is native large stature trees. But if you don't have enough growing space, because the growing space dictate us above ground and below ground growing space. The fact that in some areas the distance between two driveways in North is very limited, and also the distance from the private property to their house setback is small, that's the area that we are limited to have medium stature, even sometimes smaller stature trees, but all native.
Okay. And then just my last question, do you know if we have a buckhorn issue up north as well?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we do know that we do have it in woodlands, mainly in woodlands. And woodlands north is another challenge that we should tackle. We do have natural heritage system and woodland that it does have less than 30% canopy. So, and we had farmland also have been lands used in natural heritage system or linkages. We are working. What we have done is in 2026, actually, 80% of our woodland regeneration is in North Dundas.
Okay, thank you. And we appreciate the work that we've been able to do with Oakville Green for our tree. So that's been great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will just say that everybody else, what everybody else has been saying, fantastic report, great report card. Thank you very much for the work on this. It's exceptional. And I also want to note that the glow of excitement from Councillor Elgar's block on the Hollywood Squares here. I could just tell how excited he was about this report. So I think the word excellent came up like 15 times. Anyway, a couple of quick questions. Storm cost you indicated was $18.35 million of public trees. Do we have any sense of what the private tree losses look like? I know we can't necessarily attribute a dollar value to that, but do we have any sense of the numbers of private trees lost in that same period?
Through you, Mayor Burton, this study was under I-Tree Street Package. We have done that just for street trees, divided in 3 bands, and just for street trees. Unfortunately, we don't have any number for private trees, and looking into it, it's not a guesswork it's not fair for you that I do a guesswork.
So I guess the technology wouldn't give you enough finite detail to be able to determine that.
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, this is again based on a street tree inventory. Okay. This is not based on. We need to have an inventory of the size and the species to be able to run this analysis. We can't have an inventory from private.
Understood.
Trees.
Okay. In the highlights in the actual report itself, it talked about tree mortality rate of 3.8%. How is that calculated? Does that take into account EAB removals? Does it take into account the storm casualties, that sort of thing? Or is it strictly ecological death of a tree?
Through you, Mayor Burton, all of those factors that led to pest, disease, everything that has happened through that between the 2 inventory, 372 plots, what they collected when they went back and collected again. Whatever is missed is considered a fatality.
Okay, so 3.8%. And how does that, where does that rate in the hierarchy of success rates or health rates in terms of comparator communities or comparator areas?
Through you, Mayor Burton, excellent.
That's what I thought. That looked like a really low number, so thank you for that. I also noticed that there is a reference to, we moved from 146 to 162 species. Is that an accounting error, or is that an actual, like actual growth in the number of species in the community?
Through you, Mayor Burton, this is actual numbers.
That's real. That's wild.
Yes. Yeah.
How does that happen? Just migration of seeds or intentionality around planting?
No, starting in 2016, we changed actually our species specific specification. Let's say now we are altering every 2 species with another species. We're avoiding the monoculture, and that practice over the years keep increasing. And we actually enlarged the list of our existing available native species that is adaptable to this environment to the list used to be 83, now the list is 185.
Used to be 83.
83 species we did have in our contractors and everything in hand to go plant, and that list is now 185.
Okay, so the next question is kind of a nerd question, I think. How do you measure carbon sequestration in a tree? How is that actually measured? How do you determine that?
To you, Mayor Burton, this software, I am not able to know the detail about how, but knowing that carbon sequestration is a reflection of photosynthesis, leaf area amounts of every tree is a measure, but the proportion of converting the leaf area to carbon sequestration is a model that developed by United States Department of Agriculture Forestry section, and it inherited there. People who know how to convert leaf area to that, they can develop the software themselves. Yeah.
That's fascinating. My last question is with respect to go forward. So you're in the report, it talks about iTree relying on Google mapping. So what does the future hold? Like, would it be a made in-house solution using the LiDAR and those other, what we refer to, continuous land classification? Is this do we move to an in-house solution, or is there another piece of software, another program that we're going to use?
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, everything specific, not everyone contracted, they do have vendor, they do have. It requires multispectral images that we purchased, and it requires LiDAR that we purchased. By purchasing both of them, having a qualified consultant to do the analysis, these are the tools. Then We actually are able with $9,000 to do that every year. So this is the ability. However, forestry does have a very skilled, knowledgeable forestry information analyst can help us actually to do that in a couple of years. We do have the basic, the training have been provided. The image is in the hand of forestry information analyst. That was a part of the deliverable by contractor. By knowledge base, we are capable of providing that in a couple of years ourselves.
That's amazing. Thank you so much again for the report and for this great report card.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. So this is a great report, although it's very few words regarding our North Oakville. So I find there's interesting numbers. So for our the canopy raise is decreased from 27.6% in 2018 to 26% in 2024. I believe this is the decreasing is because of development, right?
Through you, Mayor Burton, as I explained, they're not comparable. 2018 was, the base was Google View. The Google View is a mosaic of pixels that some of them in 2024 that we rerun the analysis was leaf on and leaf off. And the method was point sample plot, not continuous land classification. Anytime that you drop 1,000 point, it goes down, and if they miss canopy, they hit from the branches leaf off to the ground, and that considers non-canopy. So it means that there are different methods. Each method brings their own numbers, and those are not comparable. So we cannot compare 2018 with 2024. What we can compare is 2015, that we do have continuous land classification, which covers all the pixels, everything, not dots. It's not sample, it's everything. And use satellite image. In that analysis, north and south, we did have it was south, sorry, my apology, it was north, it was not even developed, 25.5%, and now is 29%. Those are comparable numbers. You cannot compare something that have been done under satellite image with Google View. Those are not comparable.
Okay, I understand. So that's not comparable.
No.
So my following question is, as development continue in North Oakville, how can we prevent our tree canopy coverage from decreasing further and further?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think development in North Oakville is a part of the plan that council actually approved, and that is going to happen along with the council approval that the urbanization in Oakville followed that, it's not deviating from that. Within that, understanding that North Oakville is a transition of urbanization, we should do our best to invest on town property to improve our canopy guideline and canopy plan by what we have done, reducing the spacing and trying to keep the trees healthier. Now for north, we do have 3 years rotational cycle for tree pruning. For south, we do have 9 years. With everything that we're doing, and as I mentioned, including the majority of woodland and natural heritage system assumed north in the woodland regeneration program, that currently in 2016, 80% of our effort goes to north because of that differences of canopy cover to bring north with south together. So with all that efforts, we're hoping that we're achieving 40% canopy cover for north as well by 2057.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lischina.
Good evening, Jaleel. Thank you very much for the presentation. What stuck out to me was the major forest pest threats. And looking at that slide, the spotted lanternfly. And when I look that up, they don't kill trees, but they weaken the trees. And apparently they love sugar maple or maples and oaks. And so when a few slides earlier, the top 3 species of by leaf area are sugar maples, red oaks, and silver maples. So, you know, here we are, we're talking about tree canopy, and these are the top 3 trees that provide that canopy, and the spotted lanternfly loves them. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the town's doing about that?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Luckily, we don't have that. So it's, even though it moved from...
You just made my evening. That's great.
We don't have
I
that.
saw it on there, but...
But we did include that in our forest health survey. So it's actively, we are looking at trees and looking to find ALHP and lanternfly. Yeah.
Okay, so you're checking around different municipalities in our area just to make sure that it's, I mean, how far does this thing fly?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we're not checking other municipality. We are definitely have open communication with them. If they are doing or not, I'm not aware. But we are looking in the town of Oakville, for instance, if there is any suspicious species, either Asian longhorn beetle, we contact and CFIA and for Asian longhorn beetle, and they come and they inspect to ensure that we don't have it or we have it. Luckily, we don't have spotted lanternfly and we don't have Asian longhorn beetle and Oakvilles.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Councillor has the deal.
Jaleel, thanks for hanging in there. And thanks for always being a phone call away when the chainsaws have been pulled out somewhere in the neighborhood. But I'm very proud that Ward 3 has the highest tree canopy. So the competition is on. It's in the book. And you all said it was an excellent report. So we know it's factually correct. My only additional question, because my council colleagues covered it all, is silva-cells. So Ward 3 doesn't generally get a new subdivision, but we have a new subdivision now. And one of the worries is, will the tree canopy ever come back after the loss of all the trees? Are they required to use silva-cells, which is what we used in downtown, in their planting? Or is it something we should be encouraging?
I can share through you, Mayor Burton, I can share with you my experience. However, if I had staff from planning and development also, they could have provide you a good response on. So the main goal is providing minimum soil volume, like north 30 cubic meters, if not, to encourage having silva-cell. We are trying to achieve that in North Oakville. We have several areas that we have silva-cell. South Oakville also in many subdivision, as far as I know, like Old Grunty and a few other, we do have silva-cell. The ability requires the fact that if the subdivision does include public properties and public roads, not lane, so and all of that mechanism might limit us to enforce silva-cell, but wherever possible, we encourage that when you use that in public property. And example is the town square, that all of the trees are being planted are on silva-cell. And we do have examples in different subdivision as well. And we don't have a definite answer that whether how much we can go to encourage that. But we are looking into it.
Thanks very, very much.
Councillor Chisholm?
Thank you, Your Worship. If there's no more speakers, I'd like to move this report.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Duddock, thank you. Any objection? There being no objection, that is adopted. Thank you, everybody. It's 5.3, Oakville Galleries update, and we have 30 minutes left, kids. Just govern yourself accordingly. Do you have any questions on the report, Council? Do you have a motion? Councillor Adams. Is there a seconder? Councillor Grant, thank you. Councillor Haslett-Deal, you want the floor.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I circulated earlier today a revision to recommendation 1. It is a revision that the commissioner, I believe, can speak to as endorsing. We have, there is an opportunity now to ensure that there is a further conversation about the scope of the feasibility study and understanding the bigger vision for Oakville Galleries. And Oakville Galleries would appreciate having the opportunity to have those detailed discussions. And so I would ask that rather than the original recommendation, that the recommendation that was circulated this afternoon be considered, which...
So, Councillor, you're moving an amendment to change item number 1 to your wording, right?
Correct.
And you need a seconder. Councillor Giddings is providing you with your second. Council, do you want to hear from the commissioner, or would you like to vote on this? I will put the vote given the hour. Is there any objection to the amendment? There being no objection, the amendment carries. May I put the main motion? Is there any objection to the main motion? There being no objection to the main motion, that is carried. Councillor, thank you. Or was that easier than you thought?
Some nights you have to work harder than others.
All right, 5.4, the Oakville MDC AGM, appointment of auditors, directors, approval of financial statements. And we have a presentation from Mark Maneri of the Oakville MDC. Mr. Maneri, thank you for your patience and your endurance. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will try to condense this from what I was originally going to do, given the late hour. But I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about the activities of the Oakville MDC since our last annual meeting. Most of what I will speak to tonight is in the annual report to the shareholder, but there's a few things I'd like to speak about directly. Firstly, moving to slide 2, as I do every year, I'd like to start by saying, why did you create the Oakville MDC and what is it that we do? Just to remind you, and that's more top of mind tonight, I think, than maybe at other occasions. The primary purpose of the Oakville MDC is to maximize the value of the town's surplus real estate. And I mean maximize in terms of both financial return to the town, but also community benefits to the residents of Oakville from these surplus lands. The Oakville MDC looks to establish long-term relationships through joint ventures and limited partnerships, which will generate an income stream to the town. Moving to slide 3, as the master developer, the Oakville Municipal Development Corporation will participate in the development through its entire lifetime and provide continuing oversight to the project on behalf of the town to make sure that the objectives of the town are always met. An important advantage of the MDC, which you're well aware of, is the clear separation between the responsibilities of the corporation and this council. Council in its role as the approval authority of a development and the municipal corporation as the master developer for the project. I'd like to move to slide 4, and if I'm talking quickly, I apologize. The Oakville MDC is comprised of both community and municipal representatives, so you have both public and municipal representation on this board, which brings a good balance of opinion to the board and makes sure that the balance is appropriate. You're very well served by this group of capable and committed individuals. They do serve for a 3-year term, and that 3-year term will expire at the end of the annual general meeting next year. I'd like to speak specifically now to the board's activities this past year and into the year ahead. As you know, there are 4 near-term priority projects that we're working on as set out in the Oakville MDC business plan: the former Public Works site, the 125 Randall Street property, the former Oakville Trafalgar Hospital and high school lands, and parking lot number 8. Beginning first with the former Public Works site and moving to slide 5, The current realities of the real estate market have hit. And what I mean by this is that there's no secret that the bottom has fallen out of the real estate market for high-density land. It's extremely flat right now, and land values have declined, in some cases in the GTA, between 40 and 50% for high-density properties since its peak in 2021. And this is due to high construction costs, high interest rates, and declining demand. And if we move to slide 6, what this means that developers are reducing their offer prices, and this pressure is expected to continue in the short term. The advice the board has received from our broker, Cushman & Wakefield, is that we should not move forward with the site until the market has an opportunity to recover. This is not the time to be taking the former Public Works site to the market, since we are convinced that offers that we might receive will in no way reflect the true market value that can be realized if we otherwise wait for a healthier market to return. This temporary pause will continue, and as I show on slide 7, a rebound is expected in 2027 and 28 as demand returns. It's really a wait-and-see scenario. One benefit of this pause will be that the results of the town's Uptown Core study review should be known by the end of this year or early next year, and this will help us to make any amendments that might be necessary to the master plan if there are new policy recommendations coming forward in terms of unit mix and building heights as well as densities. The advantage obviously is with the new information, we'll be able to get ahead of it rather than responding to it. Although we all want to move forward with the site, we believe the responsible approach is to hold it in abeyance for now and to only go forward when the market says it's time to do so. Looking at slide 8, as you recall, Town Council in December 2024 indicated its preferred development scenario for the 125 Randall Street property, which would see the construction of a residential building with the first 2 floors of approximately 20,000 square feet of non-residential space being reserved and owned by the town as cultural and community space, with consideration being given to a building not exceeding 17 stories in height. With this direction from Council, the Oakville MDC issued an RFP in 2025 to deliver this redevelopment project, and the board identified a preferred development consortium in February 2026, which is the subject of the item you have on your agenda today in item number 6. The Oakville MDC is currently negotiating a memorandum of understanding with a successful developer. As indicated on slide 9, we'll be embodying all the major business terms of the arrangement agreed upon by the parties. This will be followed thereafter by a joint venture agreement. And I would also like to note that the first revenue installment from this property and this joint venture will be received later this year, with a second structured payment due in early 2027. I can tell you and assure you that the site plan, planning applications, zoning amendment, and OP amendment will be brought to council within the next few months, ensuring council's oversight and approval of the final design and project and scope of this project. Slide 10 speaks to the former Oakville Trafalgar Hospital and High School site, which has already had much good discussion. So I only highlight one important point. As we show on slide 11, we have undertaken 2 studies at the Oakville MDC, and they clearly indicate that there is indeed a market for a seniors facility on this site and that it can be made financially viable. With this new direction that you've given to staff tonight, we're going to go away and demonstrate how we can make this happen. Parking Lot 8 is our newest project and is discussed on slide 12. This has been identified by the town as a pilot project for investigating opportunities to secure additional parking in the downtown area by significantly increasing the number of surface parking spaces through an underground parking structure of some kind. Ultimately, the Oakville MDC will be looking for a joint venture partnership here as well to maintain control over the delivery of any project. As shown on slide 13, market soundings and discussions with developers have taken place over the course of the last several months to determine developer interest and the viability of the project. These discussions and feedback from developers have shown that constructing additional parking spaces will come at a very significant cost, which may not be financially feasible under current zoning. Moving to slide 14, as you can see, the cost of underground parking is significant, and surface parking, although less so, is still very expensive. So that's the bad news. The good news is, having said all this, the developers have shown real interest through these informal discussions and market soundings, and as such, as indicated on slide 15, we do intend to issue an expression of interest in 2026 to measure formal developer interest in this project and to garner a more precise exchange of information to determine what developers believe will be necessary to make this project financially feasible. This will help to inform us, obviously, of whether or not the project is doable, and it will also allow us to formulate recommendations to go back to this council in terms of moving this pilot project forward. On slide 16, I will tell you that the board has overseen the preparation of a new business plan for the 2025-2028 planning horizon, and although the costs associated with the individual work plans, particularly the project costs, have increased year over year, no surprise, the total profit and the residual land values forecasted for the near-term priority projects remain relatively stable and strong, albeit not as strong as was the case in the height of the market in 2021 and 2022. And the board remains confident that these sites will continue to be very desirable and will continue to attract strong developer interest given their specific locations and the positive individual attributes of each site. Finally, the last slide, hooray, you're saying, speaks to the business purpose of this annual general meeting and the resolutions contained in Commissioner Ayer's report, which we would ask that you confirm. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Maneri. Councillor O'Meara has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Maneri, and I know it's been a long night here. I seem to recall the last time you were here, you said you would have positive news for us on cash flow issues, on sales, on financing. Can you let me know what the cash flow is in terms of net income from the MDC since we've started it? Do we have that number in terms of what MDC has generated in terms of profitability for the town?
To date, there has been the only profitability for the Oakville MDC has been the transfer of lands to the corporation from the town. There has been no revenue generated to date, but there will be revenue generated this year.
So can you tell me what the overall expenses have been since the MDC has been incorporated and started? Do you have that number available?
Let's see, the first infusion, first and second infusion is probably around $3 million thus far.
So we're $3 million. So we're $3 million in. Sorry, how many years have we been going for? I apologize.
8 years. 8 years, yes.
So we've spent $3 million in 8 years with no revenue as of yet.
That's correct.
So I guess my question is, what kind of a corporation would acquiesce to that sort of a line item?
The Municipal Development Corporation, and I would say we have had to position ourselves and get sites ready for market to actually generate profit, and that's beginning this year.
So when can we expect any sort of a revenue coming back to us? Like, is there an actual timeline where we get to see some kind of revenue coming back for the investment that the town's put in?
Yes, the first payment of revenue will be received in 2026 following execution of an MOU, and a second structured payment will be provided in 2027 with the signing of the joint venture agreement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grant?
Thank you. I've never been so happy to not make money. You certainly listen to Cushman and Wakefield on the properties at the Old Works plans, please.
Yeah. Well, the market is impacting obviously every site that the town owns and the Oakville MDC owns.
But beyond the financial considerations, the great thing about having the MDC, pardon me, late night, is that we at least can make these projects ourselves. We direct the development.
That's
we
correct.
don't listen to the whims of another developer. We can do them right.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do here.
If council gives the direction, the Oakville MDC acts on that direction completely.
Great. I'll give a motion when the time's right.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Your motion's in order. Can I have a second? Councillor Adams, thank you. Councillor Haslett-Deal, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Mr. Maneri, you might recall last time you were with us, I had some curiosity about the parking lot 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really do appreciate the report, and that the fact that we note that not only do we have to make up for the sort of the land parking we already have, but we need to do better. Have you been apprised of the work that's being done by town staff on possible another possible parking garage?
In addition to the one that you're currently, I'm not aware.
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, that has not been part of the MDC's requirement, because it's looking at a parking garage in part to support the library that's there, and then add some additional parking on top of it. So the reason to involve the MDC in it, who gets involved with there's a joint venture, is just not available on that particular option.
Okay, but there is another project that could potentially grow our parking supply in downtown.
Through you, Mayor Burton, that study is the other downtown parking study, you're quite correct, which is building off a lot of the work that the MDC is doing, because really Lot 8 is a bit of a pilot project that understands what could be the potential.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett-Deal. You know, it was at council's direction. Let's try to remember. Is there any objection to the motion? Mr. Clerk, there is no. Councillor O'Meara objects. It's close, Councillor O'Meara, but it carries. Now we also have item 6.1, and there's let's see. The Commissioner of Corporate Services, Cheryl Ayers, is available, and if council requires it, I have the motions ready to go into closed session. And if we can't pass this in the open now, I believe that we're going to have to first consider a motion to extend the hour. Councillor Giddings.
I'm happy to recommend the staff to move the staff recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Any objection? Councillor Haslett-Deal and Councillor Giddings.
Sorry, Mayor Burton, I have a question.
Councillor Giddings, you were first. Now you're gone. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you very much for the report and the details and the comparative analysis you did. My one question is around the design. So we see two different options, which is only one component of obviously what why you would have made the recommendation. Was there consideration of the location of this site? While it's not in the Heritage District, it is on the border of a Heritage District. Was that consideration part of the evaluation?
Yes, it was, and it was one of the reasons that the cladding on the first 2 floors of the buildings is the way it is, was to try to reflect a heritage element.
Okay, and so do you, in these projects, have access to our heritage staff to take a look at the materials?
Oh, yes, yes. And actually the design, I mean, the design will have to be approved by town staff and then ultimately council. So there will be that kind of back and forth and consultation over the course of the next several months.
Thank you for that additional clarification, Mark.
All right. Is there any objection to the motion? Mr. Clerk, there being none, that's carried. Council, unless I make a mistake, I think we've reached the bylaws. And so we need a motion to consider and approve. Let's see, Mr. Clerk, are all of these bylaws for us tonight, or did we? Yep. All right, the bylaws as listed, 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3, we need a motion to consider and read and pass. And look at all the volunteers. Who hasn't been on the minutes yet? Councillor Lischina, Councillor Shia, thank you. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, the bylaws are considered read and passed, and we finished on just in the nick of time. That completes the work of the meeting. It's been terrific working with you, and I look forward to the next opportunity. Councillor Haslett-Deal?
Mayor Burton, last night I didn't get a chance to ask about the planning and development. It's under staff memorandum, and it's the growth allocation study. Can I just ask tonight?
Councillor, it's not really in order, and you're going to need a motion to proceed past the hour unless it's a quick question.
So my quick question is, I would ask that staff consider that there be it be put on the formal agenda to take us through the growth allocation study and the implications of it. And I'd ask that you just consider that.
Councillor, I can undertake to do that on behalf of council. You're very welcome. So, as I started to say, we're done. Good night. See you again.